everybody. Welcome back to the Let's Talk Movies podcast with me, John, and David, a.k.a. Shamrock Balls. And you know what? We're getting away from the modern day of Heat, and we're moving on to, well, we're going way, way back in time for a little film from 2000 called Gladiator, the best picture winner from that year, which is still a surprise to David and I. But my co-host here, David, what do you think of Gladiator, just off the top?
Well, John, just as usual, before we start, I don't want to be too obvious here, but why do you think people watch our podcast?
This one is very, very easy, but please tell me, why do they? I'm very confused to it.
Is it to be entertained?
Are you not entertained?
Is that not why you're here? That was the actual line I wanted to say, not the other part, because that's far too obvious.
Yeah.
But what do I think of Gladiator? Gladiator is undeniably an epic movie. Of all proportions, and yeah, we went from heat to the actual heat of the Colosseum in this movie, and yeah, and I suppose now we're 25 years down the line. That I didn't realize it, 25th anniversary of Gladiator, and you could call it's a classic, isn't it?
It is a classic, and this is one where I've seen it, me personally, and you have as well, seen it like evolve from what it was to the classic that it is now. I mean, it's already gotten a sequel. I think a lot of people, this is the second, I think, that we Ridley Scott film we've done, because we've done Alien. I don't think we've done any more. But this, you can make an argument. I know that obviously your dog's name is Ripley. I know what your favorite Ridley Scott film is, but I also really like Blade Runner and Thelma and Louise. But this is right up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this may be my second favorite Ridley Scott movie, because I'm not a big fan of Blade Runner. I've told you that before, and haven't seen Thelma and Louise. I've seen like Kingdom of Heaven and things like that. But no, you asked me what I think of this movie, John. I seen Gladiator in the cinema upon release.
Really?
I did, yes. One of my friends at the time, funny enough, from Italian descent, I knew nothing about this film coming along, and he was the one that said to me, I'm going to watch Gladiator. And I was like, what is it? He says, come on with me, come on, let's go. And I was just like, but what's it about? And he was like, gladiators, the Romans, da, da, da. And I just loved the cinema. So I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough, I'll go along. Had no expectations about this movie, didn't know what it was about. And I went into the movie just totally blinded, John. And I came out really exhilarated. I felt as if I'd just seen one of the best movies I'd ever seen on the big screen. It's one of those cinematic memories that you can remember coming out of, and for me, it's one of those highlights of watching a movie on the big screen.
That is a great one that you got to see it on the big screen. I'm a little bit different when it came to Gladiator. I saw it at home, actually, ironically, after it won Best Picture, because it came out in 2000. My mom was married to, well, my former stepdad, because they're not married anymore, but he was kind of a movie buff, but he had in his house, a very big screen TV of the time and a nice DVD player and sound system. And when Gladiator came to DVD, he picked it up, and I was like just blown away from watching it at home. And even now watching it like on 4K, like the sound design of this movie, it is truly like an epic. And at a time where this is from 2000, but they used to have movies like this all the time, like these kinds of like Gladiator types of films. I mean, there's a joke in Airplane. Does your dad like Gladiator films? So
yeah.
It's just kind of like the Western, almost like it's a breed of films that just kind of died. And I feel like people got swept up at like that kind of film again. And because it just felt big, it felt big and epic, and it sounds great, incredible score. And then of course the star of the movie, Russell Crowe, at that time was really on top of the world at that time. Like that's his best run of films from like 98 to this.
Yeah, that's right. And funny you should say it. So I must have come home and just really talked a lot about this film. Much I really liked it, because that Christmas, my parents, part of my Christmas presents, got me Gladiator on DVD. It was like a double disc full of bonus features. And, I don't know if I might have picked the DVD up then. I might have bought it at some stage to watch again, but I got it as a present and I loved it. And I remember watching that movie a load of times back then, and inviting my friends in, and us all sitting around and watching Gladiator and just having a laugh and having a good time and really loving the film. But you're right. When you think about that period, John, I'm sure every decade has their period pieces. But when you think about that decade, I was thinking about it earlier, you had like the likes of Robin Hood, and then you had Braveheart, and we'd mentioned it in the last week's podcast, talked about the likes of Saving Private Ryan and Titanic and Shakespeare in Love. And then all of a sudden, what comes along is Gladiator. And in some ways, I feel as if Gladiator was kind of riding on the coattails of those type of movies. An epic movie like Braveheart, which won, I believe it won Best Picture, didn't it? And
Yep.
and as it turns out, the person that conceived Gladiator wrote Spielberg's Amistad.
Yeah, which that's really like, again, coming out also right in that same kind of window. I guess Braveheart kind of rekindled that flame, and you can clearly see
Yeah.
Hollywood kind of views it that way because funny when this came to 4K Blu-ray, I guess now it's 5 years ago because both Braveheart and Gladiator are celebrating anniversary. So it was for the 20th anniversary of Gladiator, 25th for Braveheart. They came to 4K on the same day, and I had them both in my hands, and I pulled the trigger on Braveheart before I did Gladiator, which, I'm ashamed to say on a Gladiator podcast, but I did because and both of them, I kind of get the itch to watch the other when I watch one of them, even though they are obviously very different.
Do you know what's really funny about that? Because Braveheart was one of those ones that I remember watching in the mid-90s, might have been on Sky Movies, and loving it. And I'd seen it a bunch of times. And like everybody, where I was from loved Braveheart because it was like fighting English, Scottish
Yeah.
fighting English, and then the Irish got helped the Scottish out in the movie. And people used to go about shouting freedom, you know what I mean? And I didn't go back to it for years. I don't know why I just didn't go back to it. And it might have been the same with Gladiator, only I had the DVD. But I went back to Braveheart a few years ago. I got the itch to watch it again about 4 years ago, and picked up the Blu-ray and forgot how good it actually was. And it's hard to pick which one would be better than the other. I kind of feel as if they're nearly on the same level.
Yeah.
They are ultimately different types of movies. I think we throw them in together because they have a strong male lead who's fighting against, a tyrannical oppressor. Whereas like Gladiator, it's in a small arena, and Braveheart's on a bigger battlefield.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a few years apart, so they kind of have a similar like visuals, like as far as the scale of the films. Both have great scores. I'll give the edge to Braveheart just because that's one of my personal favorite scores, and you've told me in the past that that's led to the Titanic score, which is one of my all-time favorite scores. So very important. But this one, the score is done by Hans Zimmer, so that's another great composer.
Yeah, and the thing is that I actually think that this is my personal favorite Hans Zimmer score.
I was wondering if you were going to say that because you've told me in the past you aren't the world's biggest Hans Zimmer guy. I love Hans Zimmer, even though I feel like some of his earlier scores are better than like what he's kind of done recently, which I might get some flack for that. But I do feel like once he kind of got involved with Nolan, it fits the Nolan thing, but it's just I can't listen to those kinds of scores in the car. Like I could listen to this score in the car.
Yeah, this is broader.
Yeah.
And I have a double disc edition of this score, but I know that it was one of the big labels that release movie scores. They recently released the expanded version, which is basically each track from the movie order. And I was listening to a few of them because it's on YouTube. I was listening to a few of them cues, and it is epic. It's an epic score. And again, I'm very surprised because I don't want to get too far ahead of us here. In the Oscars, it was nominated, but it didn't win for score, and I was very surprised at that.
Who won that year? Do you know?
Who won the score? I looked it up earlier. I think it was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay, that is the score. All right, I don't see it. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon's a good film, but the score doesn't stand out to me like this one does.
Mm-hmm. And I think the score's a big part of the emotion in this movie.
100%. And we'll get into the movie in a second, but like the journey of the character from beginning to end, this score does a lot of the heavy lifting to tie everything together.
Yeah, it does. And as I say, I just touched on the writing there. We've been talking before we started recording just briefly about how they tried to get the project off the ground, and there were several different writers involved, and it was Spielberg's DreamWorks company which actually picked this up. DreamWorks in their very early days. This is probably DreamWorks' first Best Picture winner.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, DreamWorks, this is very early on, and they were like It's weird when I see the DreamWorks logo in the beginning of this film. It's like I'm like a little surprised by it because DreamWorks would then, of course, shift to like mostly known for like their animation projects, not like a big Best Picture winner like Gladiator. Doesn't fit that kind of mold, but this is definitely a good investment on their part because they spent a lot of money on it, but it got a big return and of course a Best Picture winner.
Yeah, well, the writer says he went to Spielberg and he was going to pitch it to him, but Spielberg already got wind that he was coming to speak to him. So when he went to talk to him, Spielberg says to him, "So you're looking to make a Gladiator movie, set in the Colosseum?" And he said, "Yeah, that's right." And Spielberg says, "Okay," and that was it. They were concerned because, as you said, that these type of movies weren't really in vogue for the last 40 years before, or they failed. They said that they failed for the last 40 years before Gladiator was made. And that goes back to my point. I think that part of the reason why they potentially took a risk on it was because of what just became before with like Braveheart and Robin Hood and things like that, big hits, historical dramas set, period pieces to do with warriors and times gone by, ancient times, and with a love interest, and they don't have to be totally historically accurate. And I think that they thought, well, we could maybe, this could be a hit. I don't think maybe they thought it was going to go on to be, as I say, I've got my notes here. It was nominated for 12 Oscars. It won 5, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Russell Crowe and Best Costume Design. And
Which it should.
I don't think they maybe thought it was going to do as well as that. But yes, they did have different screenwriters come in to try and kind of iron out all the issues that they had while making the movie. Because I think the first two initial screenwriters didn't want it to be a revenge story. They wanted it to be about a man who was trying to get home to his family, and there was a dispute about whether they should kill his family or not. And then they thought, well, there'd be more of an emotional punch, and he'd have more to fight for if they killed his family. And he had a love interest with Connie Nielsen's character. And but then when they brought the third writer in, the third writer done the whole third act, whereas he actually died and he goes back to his family in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the nucleus for the story there. That's the kind of story that they wanted to tell, and the backdrop of gladiators, Rome, the Colosseum.
It's a beautiful character arc. I love that. And I saw the same thing you were talking about, like how he came in and tied it together of basically then the character, his full motivation from the very opening of like what he wants to do is just go home. He doesn't get to go home in the conventional way that we're thinking, but he does get to go home at the very end, which is beautiful. And Russell Crowe, the way, which we'll get into, the way he plays like this character, like how you look at it, like it's not a straight, he's standing in front of the guy. He could easily kill the guy for revenge, but it's also about being an example for Rome and like who, was there to motivate him going forward, like who he saw as a hero of a man. Like he's not going to, even though his whole family is killed, like the way I'm trying to think of what the best word to describe it is, like to hold in your anger. Like, what is that? Like restraint. He shows great restraint. Yeah. And I love
turn
that.
the other cheek.
Exactly. Like, and Russell Crowe, like he's played before this, the movie 98, like LA Confidential, he plays one of the biggest hotheads. Like you could see this guy flying off the handle and then playing a character like this only a couple years later, showing great restraint when the worst thing that could ever happen to a man, the thing that he loves the most in the world, gets ripped away from him. And the person who orders that takes his life is standing in front of him, but that's still like, just be able just to turn your back on him is more powerful than just like stabbing him in the throat.
Well, I think the thing about the character you're describing, but dawns on me, what comes to me about him is that he's a soldier, and he's disciplined.
Very exactly, like which is something
right?
Which
funny enough, which would be that's what makes him a good leader. That's what makes him successful in his endeavors, and he has one more mission to carry out, and the mission isn't to go home. The mission is to carry out Marcus Aurelius's wishes.
His final wish.
His final wishes, his dying wishes
that only he knew.
That only he knew, but he was tasked with doing it. So once he carries those out, then he can go home.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's basically it. But you say about Russell Crowe, yeah, you mentioned earlier, John. Russell Crowe, great movie, by the way, LA Confidential, very good movie. Love it. He's brilliant in it. I think he was nominated for an Oscar for that, was he?
I personally, he won for. Did he win? No, did he win for Beautiful Mind too? Or like I feel like yeah, I can't remember, but like that's 01. That's another one. But like he was riding some kind of high here, man. Like it's crazy between LA Confidential. What's the other movie? The Michael Mann movie he was in, like The Informant, I want to say. Right. He was in that. He was in Cinderella Man around this time.
That's right, Cinderella Man.
Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, which is an awesome movie.
No, that movie I don't think sorry to cut you off there, but I don't think that Master and Commander movie done as well as they anticipated.
No,
I remember a lot of backlash when that came out that it was boring.
Yeah, it was a commercial failure. It was supposed to start a whole franchise, but I think,
Mm.
but people have revisited now and said that they underrated it. He's great, but he's just the way he was acting at this time, riding just such a high of being like one of the biggest actors in the world. And it's strange by like '05, like he just pops up now in other things, and
Yeah.
it's not the same. Like he was one of the best actors of his period of this time.
Well, I remember obviously that period very well, being 10 years older than you.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's and I still look younger than you.
you
And
do. I know
I'm
you
only,
do.
I'm only kidding you. But
Well, the
I,
truth's the truth.
not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Hey, listen, this isn't a high definition camera. You can't see all the wrinkles and all here. But no, I remember because no, like I seen this in 2000. So I was what age was I? I was 19 years of age. So I seen this. I was turning 19. I was 18, and I didn't really know much about Russell Crowe. I think I'd seen LA Confidential, but I didn't really know much about him. But this movie did make him like a big global name. This kind of made him a superstar. This movie, winning the Best Actor Oscar, and then what movie was it he done with Meg Ryan?
Ooh, what was that movie he did with Meg Ryan?
Is that A Beautiful Mind?
Is Meg Ryan in A Beautiful Mind? That's the Steven Spielberg. Not Steven. Who did A Beautiful Mind?
Soderbergh?
No, Ron Howard's A Beautiful Mind.
Well, he done a movie with her,
What
and
is
the scandal at the time was that he had an affair with her, and she was still married to Dennis Quaid.
Mm-hmm. Well, that marriage started on an affair, so
Yeah, well, that's true. He was well here. Dennis Quaid actually going off a wee bit topic here. He was married to PJ Souls. Do you know that?
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he actually had an affair with Lee Thompson on Jaws 3.
Really,
Yep, and left her for Lee Thompson.
it's the Hollywood man.
So there's a history there, but that was the whole. I remember reading the newspapers at the time. This is before kind of the internet was a big thing. You know what I mean? And the newspapers at the time was all about Russell Crowe having this affair with Meg Ryan and all the rest. And the thing was, but and almost you're saying about him riding high, he was probably because of this movie. He probably was. The paparazzi was a big thing.
Oh, this was
then,
the cell phone thing at the time too, wasn't it? Where he threw the phone at one of them.
he threw a phone from. I didn't realize it was a cell phone, but I thought it was like one of those bloody phones on the wall. He ripped it off. You know what I mean? He ripped the receiver off the wall and threw it or something. I don't know. I could be wrong there, but yeah, all this was happening at the time. But the paparazzi was a big thing at the time. Sure, there was the whole scandal with Princess Diana and the paparazzi were being very intrusive on celebrities, and because he was like because Gladiator was such a phenomenon, mate, and he was a big name, and they were torturing him, and then he got this reputation for being a hothead and not a very nice person, and he was going to clubs, he was getting drunk, he was getting in the fights, and as you say, throwing a phone at someone, and all this was starting to come out about him. Now, listen, whether it's true, whether it's just paper talk, you know what people are like gossiping, but I feel as if the stardom kind of got him a bit.
You know what? That's a very good possibility. The movie I looked it up was Proof of Life, and which is the same year, 2000, as Gladiator. That was the movie he did with Meg Ryan. Forgot about that movie again. Yeah, but it's funny. All that. I mean, it's not funny. It kind of sucks. But yeah, I think the pressure got to him. But there was a South Park episode of Russell Crowe, and he hosted a show called Fighting Around the World, and he would just go around fighting people. And he's like, he literally was just spoofing the whole thing of how angry he was with the paparazzi. And he's like, I couldn't fight cancer, but I'm going to fight somebody with cancer instead.
Hot-headed actor named Russell Crowe. He loves to act, but he loves one thing more: fighting around the world.
South Park's ridiculous. So, but I just remember that all the time. It is crazy because he must have just maybe left the limelight, but he still pops up. Like he's in The Nice Guys from a few years ago, which is one of my favorite recent films. So he's still acting, but it's just not like how this was.
No, and look, I don't really know much about Russell Crowe, the man or the person. And as I say, look, because I was a wee bit older than yourself, mate, being a late teenager, early 20s, like I was reading this in the newspaper and I was just, remembering it from that time. Whereas like when you're a wee bit older, if you're 8 or 9 years of age, you probably wouldn't.
No. Like I said, I remember this more from South Park, this whole thing, and just watching the movies. I wasn't into the paparazzi and what the hell they're up to.
yeah, exactly. So that's what I could remember Russell Crowe. And me as a movie fan, I think he maybe tried to take a wee bit of a step back. Do you know what I mean? Because of all this, or maybe it's like some actors got a reputation of being difficult and things like that. But look, because of the internet now, I actually watched an interview with him not too long ago. I think it might have been for one of those Exorcist movies he was doing.
Oh
And
yeah, he was in that a couple of years ago. Like I think it was a Kenneth Branagh film, wasn't it?
yeah, well, he done two Exorcist movies, which was really weird. There was one called like The Pope's Exorcist. Then there was another one.
Yeah, one of them's directed by Kenneth Branagh. Like it's a series of movies, and I can't remember. It's the same exact franchise that has the Orient Express on it. It's like a trilogy of movies based on books that Kenneth Branagh directed, but I can't remember. One of them is an exorcism movie. He's in it.
Yeah, well, I think he's playing a priest in both of them. But
Nah.
I don't know. I actually like him, and look, we all know how. I think we all know now in the world of social media how we can be easily manipulated. So you know, a lot of those stories you read in the papers 25 years ago, probably 90% were bullshit. Do you know what I mean? So
Can't fact check like we do now. Like back then, it was like a lot more believable because that was the only source.
Yeah, you know, you took that as gospel as such, and so I don't know. As I say, I'm not judging the man. I'm just trying to put an explanation in to what you say about them having such an amazing run in the 90s and into the 2000s, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's not as prolific. But look, we all know as well that sometimes happens to actors too.
Yeah, I mean, actors flare up. Not everybody is like De Niro and Pacino, where they're on the screen for 50 straight years. Like we've had this where actors come and like have like great. Kevin Costner's another great example. Like he still pops up every now and again, but nothing like his run in the 80s and early 90s. Like once you can almost argue that Russell Crowe kind of corrected him, like market corrected him in the sense like he came along and kind of took the roles that he would have while he kind of faded away, like as like the big leading man in Hollywood.
I do know it's the same with directors too. You know, you look at John Carpenter and. Like, you know, sometimes like it's like everything, mate. Sometimes you think you want something, and when you have it, you realize it's not what you expected it to be, and that goes into fame. Everybody, you know, some of these actors probably imagine it's going to be different than what it actually is, and that could be a two. Or maybe he never ever thought he would hit the heights he did hit, and he just was like, "Whoa, this isn't for me."
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I respect that completely. The only reason I even like bring it all up and this is because I love his work. I love Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
I truly like wanted to see. He could have been one of the all-time greats. It's not like he doesn't still act. It's just like you would see him only like every few years. Where at this point, like maybe he just like you said, just it was too much for him. Maybe too fast. He's in like what 2 or 3 like in this window of time. He's in like 10 to 15 movies. He's probably like maybe he's just sick of it then, and dealing with all the bullshit around like just working.
He's in a band as well, but isn't he? I think he's in a band. I think he does that.
I mean, you know what? I have heard that. I have heard that. I mean, listen, he got his Academy Award for Best Actor. He's probably made plenty of money. Let him do what he wants. Let him be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, the thing is, the problem with fans like us, who are movie fans, it's like John Carpenter. We see an actor and we define that person. That's what he does. That's what he is. But it's like everything. I mean, these people there's probably actors there that do it for the love of it, and then there's ones that do it to earn a living, and then there's other ones like we talk about James Cameron being a director. He's other passions. He's made some great movies, so he's now progressed his life on to doing something else because he can afford to do that. A passion of his, and it's the same with maybe some of these actors like Johnny Depp having a band or Russell Crowe being in a band. He's probably like, you know, I can't do that anymore. I want to do something. I'm financially comfortable. I'm getting older. I want to do something that actually makes me happy. And because like you go off and make these movies, John, it can take up maybe 12 months, 18 months of your life, maybe 2 years of your life.
Yeah, honestly, you couldn't be more right. This is something I've noticed as I've gotten older personally. I don't think we appreciate it when we're younger. And I just got done watching the Billy Joel documentary, and he retired from writing songs in like 1993 when he's only like 44 years old. And his final album had like 3 hits on it. So it's like he could have kept going, but he talked about like how much it wore him down to make that kind of music all the time. And I feel like we don't look at people like these actors and directors as like regular human beings like us. But it's like, I mean, I get bored of doing the same thing over and over. And we just think that, like, how could that be? You have the greatest job in the world, but they're still human beings. And they can just be like, I want to do something that I love. And I've lost my love for this. So I don't want to do it anymore. We just expect them to keep doing it because it's like they've hit something that we want. But they're still human beings and they still have human being needs where, like, it could just happen. Like, and we got to respect it.
And it's one of those things, too. See, when you're young and you come from nothing and you're climbing the mountain, and you're more energetic, and you maybe don't have a family, and it's I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's a wee bit more. I don't want to say easy, but what I'll say is when you're on the up, your input can be a wee bit more and your passion can be a bit more. And when you get to the top, when you're a wee bit older and maybe you've got a family and you're not as energetic, maybe you have to maybe pick and choose a wee bit more about what you do. And especially maybe when you're financially a wee bit more financially sound, that you can step back from it and take a break from it and be a wee bit more selective about what you do as well. So I think that ties into it. And just to move the conversation on, mate, just talking about directors. Apparently, they wanted to go for Ridley Scott because they wanted a world builder who to make this movie, and they'd seen what he had done in movies like Alien and Blade Runner and things like that. So that's why they went with him.
Which is honestly, I think I've said it before, and so have you. It's like he's the greatest at building worlds. I think that's what he brings to the table better than anybody else, because a lot like some directors are directors, he's not. He's somebody you got to bring him the script, and I feel like that's always been like why sometimes you end up with a bad Ridley Scott film. It's not because like he just keeps working, so he's always at the mercy of like what the script can be sometimes, but he is better than anybody at creating worlds when it comes like look at movies like Alien. I know you don't love Blade Runner, but I think that's the best world building in film history. It's unbelievable to look at that movie. It's eye catching and beautiful to this very day. And even in movies that weren't as successful, they still look incredible.
Yeah. Well, I can recognize what Blade Runner is and what it's done for movies, especially 1980. Like it's amazing what they achieved with that movie visually in 1980 when you think about it, and I can recognize its influences since then on those type of sci-fi movies.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I think they got the right guy for it because this does feel like the period that they're trying to recreate here.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we were joking around before we started about like the fact that the making of for this has about, I don't know, an absurd amount of time dedicated to the costumes. You know what? It's funny in this sense to make fun of how much time they spent on that, but it's very, very, very impressive. The stuff does look great. There is, I mean, some of the most memorable stuff. The mask he wears is just as iconic as the film. Like they created an iconic mask for the film. It's usually on a lot of the artwork for the film for a reason because it is iconic. So what can you say? Like, there's a good reason to spend some time on it.
Yeah, I've mentioned before, John, as well, is that I hate like words like iconic just being thrown about just willy nilly. Everything in a movie isn't iconic just because someone likes it. But this definitely is iconic, and I can tell you now, like, just this is one of these movies that it just kind of like what's the word, not absorbed, but it just went into the pop culture of that time. And as the start of the show, which was too obvious, are you not entertained? You know what I mean? Some of the lines that he says, "My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius," and all this, and
That's
people iconic. People still say these lines to this day. It's common, as I mentioned earlier, being a teenager around that period. There's movies like Titanic is one of them as well, John. Oh, Jack, I'm flying, and paint me like one of your French girls, and things like that. People, still say those lines. Braveheart, Freedom. These type of movies here, they went into the pop culture of the time of the 90s, early 2000s. This is another one. Russell Crowe is Luke. Some of the lines out of the movie, without a doubt, they are iconic.
Yep. And I think there's no better time than now to get into it because there's some other lines and characters I want to get into, but a lot of them do appear in the first scene of the movie because the first scene is iconic as it is as well, in my opinion. So you ready to dive in?
Yeah, but just before we start, with just 110 million budget, and it made 465.5 million at the
Good
box
investment.
office. Great return, especially for that time, for this type of movie. Big budget, though, very big for that time as well, I think. And it was, as I mentioned earlier, it was nominated for 12 Oscars and it won 5. Now, I think we had mentioned there as well that Hans Zimmer didn't win Best Score, which I think is disappointing. Didn't win Best Cinematography or Art Direction. Scott was nominated for Best Director. He didn't win that either. But, Joaquin Phoenix was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Now, I'll be honest, as much as as a movie buff, I like to think of myself, I'm going to be a hypocrite here. And I forgot that this movie won Best Picture. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, this won Best Picture. And then when I was doing more research, I went, Jesus, it was nominated for 12 Oscars. Now, the reason I'm saying I'm going to be a hypocrite is because I did mention in one of our podcasts, I think it was the Spielberg podcast, the movies I guess should be winning Best Picture, popular movies that, crowd pleasers. So I suppose in a way I'm glad it won, but I just thought it was too kind of poppy for that type of thing. But I don't know why. I just totally forgot it won.
2000 was a weird year as far as films, like, that's also Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was nominated, and that's also another crowd pleaser. Like, what's that, directed by Ang Lee, if I'm correct? Like, that's another one that was a big crowd pleaser of the time as well. I remember even like in school, like I was still in school, like people like in my grade talking about that movie. I just don't think there was any like other like deep indie films of the time that these movies were actually starting to bubble to the surface. And you got big names attached, like again Russell Crowe and Ridley Scott of the time. Like, it seems more like a safe pick for the era, but 1999 was such a great year. 2000, I feel like, was a little bit lower.
Yeah, I think as well, just thinking back to that time period. And look, you know what? I am a hypocrite for saying it. I suppose it is better that movies like this win it. You know what I mean? I think they should. And I suppose I should be glad then, because it is a great movie and I always enjoy it every time I go back to it, John. But I suppose kind of like, looking back at it, this is the type of movie that defined that era. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose it is the right decision.
Yeah, it's I agree with the decision. I don't know what I always try and think, what would I put above it for that year? And I don't know. I don't think any of my favorite movies from that year would win Best Picture. Like, it was a movie I love from that year called Frequency. Like, it actually stars Dennis Quaid, that I love from that era. But that's not a Best Picture winner. So I don't know what I would put above it. Like, that's not the kind of movie that you get nominated. This has all the big things that would have won Best Picture in the 50s or 60s. So maybe that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Like, these big epics like this, like, great production design, great score, great actor, great director. It checks a ton of boxes.
Yeah. So that's what I meant to say. It wasn't that it defined the era. It captured the imaginations of people. I talked about in one of our podcasts about how Titanic, it captured people's imaginations, the romanticized version of the Titanic sinking. And I think this film kind of done something similar. It captured a romanticized version of Rome and Gladiator games, and it pleased the masses just like it does in the movie. And when you look back, it's kind of like the same, but in my opinion, what Braveheart done.
Do you think the effects of the time play a part too, with the 1990s and the early special effects of that era, like movies like Braveheart, this, and Titanic, like being able to like make these worlds that we could never fully create like in live action? Like, now we're actually using these tools to assist us, kind of helps too for these movies winning Best Picture, because really, like in 97 with Titanic, more than likely the safer pick that year would have been LA Confidential, but Titanic, I think you're right, did like romanticize the era that people fell in love with it.
What you're saying, that's a very good point, because like Terminator 2 or Jurassic Park, which didn't win Best Picture, of course, but you had then Titanic, and I think that mix of practical effects and using the CGI, which was relatively a new tool in the 90s, created images that people hadn't really seen as realistic before. And that ties in then to Gladiator, because I always remember some of the talk was about recreating the Colosseum. So bringing back this ancient arena that's just in ruins, but seeing it all in on a big screen, of course, digitally done, maybe partly made and partly a model. But when you bring all these elements together, they create an image that looks so real. And it's almost like you're being transported back to that time. The same with Titanic. So, I think that you're right. That might have something to do with it. All these elements coming together and creating an image so realistic that you feel like you can touch it. And as John Hammond says in Jurassic Park, which is, strangely enough, basically what he's telling the audience. So, I think that's a good point to make, John. I think that probably does have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I was just kind of just thinking as you were talking, like, of the era, just thinking about that like 95 to 2000 window. Like, why would those three movies win Best Picture? Like, what's some like a common theme besides being like historical period pieces? And I'm like, the effects were really on the rise, and like Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, like, using the effects first, but those are still blockbusters at their core. Whereas these will appeal to like bigger audiences, and definitely the more snobby audiences that the Academy is, as well as appealing to the mass audience who want to go see some bloody action that this movie's filled with, as well as
Yeah.
being a character study.
Yeah, and it has that fringe love story as well. And like you say, it harkens back to those older type of like movies that were epics of the time and were always Oscar contenders or Oscar winners, like Spartacus and movies like that, or Ben-Hur. So it harkens back to those old movies too. So I suppose that there's a lot of credence there for it to be an Academy winner. You mentioned earlier, John, just about the opening. But well, first of all, we see that Universal logo. So it's
And
actually a Universal in conjunction with DreamWorks, but it's like a golden gladiator.
I love that. I love it when they play around, like a little touch like that to like the logos. You know, not every movie gets that treatment. A lot of Nolan films do, where they get to actually play around with the logos, dye the color, maybe have the sound, or remove the Universal sound effects. You know, nice little touch, makes the movie feel big.
Yeah, it does. It's brilliant. And then it was in that DreamWorks logo, which I can't remember the first time I seen that DreamWorks logo. I can't remember what movies they've done before this, but I know Gladiator's pretty early on. But I do like how they put a golden kind of touch on it. Um, and you can hear that Hans Zimmer score. So it almost feels like it's just part of the whole picture.
Yeah, it fits it perfectly. I think What Lies Beneath is DreamWorks as well, and also 2000.
Is Saving Private Ryan DreamWorks?
Yes, it is.
I know there's a few before it. I always remember having, was it the Lost World computer game? And I'm there certain that started with DreamWorks. Do you know when they threw the wee fishing thing in at the start? You hear
Yeah.
the girl from the start of the Lost World going, "I found something," squealing, and it pulls her into the water. Used to scare the life out of you. So I always remember that, but I don't think the Lost World is DreamWorks.
No, it's not, but it's still Spielberg. It's weird how Spielberg has that company, then he has Amblin. It's and they're all kind of in conjunction with Universal, which is like the company he had his best working relationship with.
I like to dive more on that because Album seems like it's more off the back of, say, his ET days, and they done things like Gremlins and Back to the Future and things like that. Whereas it almost feels as if when he started DreamWorks, he wanted to move towards more adult movies, the likes of your Saving Private Ryan's and like a Gladiator dramatic epic.
Yeah, it's weird that Saving Private Ryan and Gladiator came under the same label, but then they shifted. I'm pretty sure DreamWorks does Shrek.
Yeah, no, but I suppose it's like everything. It's anything that's going to make you money in the end, isn't it?
No, yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate thing. Like, not studios, I feel like this happens all the time. United Artists, this other studios in the 90s, like Castle Rock, I think they all started out with like these ambitions of being like these big, like, we're gonna really take care of the artists, and then they realize, oh shit, we gotta pay for this. It's kind of happening now at A24, where A24 was like committed to like these small little films, but they came out recently, like, well, we're gonna try and have some bigger budget with higher return films too. It's like you still need money at the end of the day.
Yeah, you don't want to go bankrupt. And
Yeah.
you know where Castle Rock comes from?
Well, that's Rob Reiner from something with Steven Spielberg, right? What movie is that?
Well, it's actually Stephen King.
Stephen King. That's what. Why did I say Spielberg?
Yes.
That's what I meant. Like, it's something in Maine with Stephen King and all his shit, right?
Yeah, yes. Well, Stephen King. I'm not sure what book it turned up in first. Maybe Stand By Me or something. But one of the towns in this book is called Castle Rock, and he's a big Stephen King fan. So obviously he made Carrie, didn't he? No, that was Brian De Palma. Sorry, Rob Reiner. You say Rob Reiner on Castle Rock? Well, he done Misery, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he done Stand By Me. He's done a few others, but yeah. So, but the funny thing is about Stephen King is that he actually he's a world builder too. Like, you'll read one of his books and they'll mention towns from other books, like Pet Cemetery. I'll mention Salem and Derry.
Yeah, always in the north, very north, always usually in Maine. Stephen King, like he has a lot of tropes just from his own books, that always carry over into the films.
Yeah. So that's what he does. Okay, then we have the title come up, Gladiator, and then we have this scroll that starts just giving us a bit of exposition or background about the Roman Empire. Stretching. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, John.
And I was going to say, yeah, basically how we're about to get into the final battle, like where they essentially know they're going to win this final battle, and there's about to be some final arrest period for Marcus Aurelius, however you say his name and everything, like Marcus Aurelius and everybody here. They're finally they've ended this war. This is about to be it. We're about to see the final battle.
Yeah, that's right. And they say about the height of their powers, the Roman Empire stretched from the deserts of Africa to the borders of northern England. Do you know why that is?
Because they were conquering everybody, I assumed.
Well, they wouldn't come to Scotland or Ireland because they didn't want to deal with the crazy red-headed people.
Oh, they're smart for that because they would have lost. Because like these people like
Yep.
act like that. These are the snooty, classy people of the time.
Yep, they were terrified to come into to go to Ireland or
They-
Scotland.
As they should be.
Yeah. Anyway, so what I know of, I could be wrong there, you know. But anyway,
Well, you know the problem with Scotland, right?
what's
They're filled with Scots.
that's a line of the Braveheart, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a
It's a classic.
That's right. I think they said the same about Ireland. But yeah, so this exposition here, and as you said, goes on here to say, in the winter of 180 AD, Emperor Marcus Aurelius' 12-year campaign against the barbarian tribes in Germania was drawing to an end. One final stronghold stands in the way of Roman victory and the promise of peace throughout the empire. So we cut to a hand coming through and feeling the weight.
Yeah, which has been spoofed.
Well, we hear children laughing, and we cut to Russell Crowe as Maximus. And he sees a robin fly and he smiles. But that whole idea of his hand going through the wheat is that the end? Well, we know it is the end of the movie, but is he having a premonition, or is that actually just the end of the movie and they're bringing you back, or is he thinking about that?
I think it's originally intended for like the end of the movie to be like just coming back and showing us like this is how we'll connect to the very end. I don't know if he's actually envisioning that, although he is clearly very spiritual and truly believes that when he dies, when he talks to the men, he makes it very clear. Like you're gonna see grass, like once you see green grass, like that's where you'll be finally at peace, and like see him with the robin. He's like getting a peaceful moment before war.
Yeah, the calm before the storm. It comes up Germania, and we have this amazing score starting. Mm-hmm. And we see horses with Romans on them and tribes of men. And we zoom in, just briefly zoom in on Marcus Aurelius sitting on his horse watching everything.
Yep.
And then we see Maximus, who's passing his men, and they're greeting him and saluting him, saying general. So we see here he has a great rapport with his men, and they all respect him greatly.
Yeah, they admire him, respect him. They'll follow him into battle. Like he's a true leader that we see, and the guy leading the Roman army. That's why what happens to him is so unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's a cutthroat time, treachery and betrayal and backstabbing, and as when I was watching a wee bit of the making of or the guys who wrote the script, that's what they talked about, and we'll get into it here. But one thing is there's a lot of politicking going on, and it's pretty much politics is basically war without killing. So there is a lot of treachery goes on and backstabbing. We see that from the politicians, but we also see it from the soldiers on the battlefield. But sometimes those lanes cross paths, and people assassinate kings, queens, politicians. It happens. It's happened throughout history for power.
Exactly.
For gain, power, yeah. But then we see Maximus, and he comes up to Quintus, which I always thought to myself, is he named after somebody?
Maybe. I don't know. It's very possible. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I always thought that. I never looked it up to see why he's called Quintus. But anyway, and then Valorous and Maximus says lean and hungry, still nothing. And Quintus says them not a sign. And Maximus asks, how long has he been gone? And he says nearly 2 hours. And Valorous says, will they fight, sir? And Maximus says, we shall know soon enough. But then we see a horse arrive with a headless soldier on it.
I love that. Great shot.
Yeah, and that's when Maximus says, they say no. We see there's some great lines in this, but there's like a barbarian then emerges with a head, with his head, and his army appears from the trees behind him, and he throws the head to the ground. And that's when Quintus says to him, people should know when they are conquered. And Maximus says, would you, Quintus? Would I?
Yeah, I know. And this is like showing us like how, towards the end of his life, how Maximus feels about like what's been happening over these years. He's seen so much. 16 of his 20 years, I think he says, like it's just been nothing but war. So he's like kind of at the tail end of his life here, English Bob, as I like to still remember him as.
Oh, English Bob, yes. Well, I watched that. Yeah, he's brilliant as English Bob. One of my favorite lines in that movie is, a lot of it is, it's when, if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about Unforgiven.
Yeah.
Where Richard Harris, who plays Marcus Aurelius in this movie, he plays English Bob in Tombstone. And he's
younger viewers might remember him as the first Dumbledore in the Harry Potters up to his death.
Yeah, but he's always going about, he's taunting the Americans because I think, who is it? who is it? It's one of their presidents has been
It was
attempted
Lincoln.
assassination.
Oh no,
I
yeah,
don't think it was McAdams.
maybe yeah. One of them was almost he got shot. I think it
He
might have
gets
been.
shot, but he
Yeah.
survived. It was in the papers, and he's going on about how great it is to have a queen. I think he was saying how great it is to have a queen. And he's trying to taunt the Americans, but then when Gene Hackman beats him up, Gene Hackman hits him. The first thing he says to him is, "Still talking about your queen, are you, Bob?" He might have said Kane. I can't remember, but he's like, he knows. He hasn't even said anything to Gene Hackman yet about this, but. That's when he starts beating on him. That's what he says. He's still going on about your keen, are you, Bob?
I love
But
that back
anyway,
and forth. Yeah,
it's very good. We need to do that one someday, John.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, definitely. But then we have Maximus here, and he says to his army, "Strength and honor." Now, something I have to bring up. Something me and you love a lot. The TV series called a little show called The Sopranos.
Yeah, great show. One of the best all time.
Yep, and Ralphie is obsessed with Gladiator.
So much of the time too.
And they're at Johnny Sack's barbecue, and he arrives in, and Tony's standing there with Silvio. I can't remember who else is there. And he turns around and he says to Tony and Silvio and whoever else is standing there, "Strength and honor, strength and honor." And somebody goes, "What?" And Silvio says, "Fuck is obsessed with Gladiator." Tony turns and says to him, "Gin and tonic. Go to the bar."
Classic.
Oh, it's brilliant. But yeah, anyway, so Maximus tells him, "At my signal, unleash hell." And he raids off as both groups are now gearing up for a big battle.
And this is about to be a great scene. I love the snow in the air, though, like how it's like still kind of sunny, but the snow is coming down. It's not like a blizzard or anything, just kind of a light snowstorm. Beautiful shots.
Yeah, and I meant to point out that before we get into the movie here, that this movie was filmed in, I think it was 4 different locations at the very least. It was England, Morocco, Malta, and Italy, and these scenes at the start were filmed in England. But you're right, and I love this, how Maximus raids off, and I love this speech that he gives, as you alluded to there, where he says, "About 3 weeks from now, I'll be harvesting my crops. Imagine where you will be, and it will be so. Hold the lanes and stay with me. If you find yourself alone riding in green fields with the sun in your face, do not be troubled, for you are in Elysium and you're already dead." And see the way he shouts, "And you're already dead."
Like that's the goal. Like you're happy now. You're finally free of this horrible world and all this war.
Yeah, well, you've nothing to worry about. You've no, because you're gone, and and that goes back as well. The line in The Lost World when Addie, I think it's Addie's killed, and somebody makes a derogatory comment about the Rex is already. I think it's Pete Postlethwaite says Rex is already fed, so that should be us all right for a few hours. And Jeff Goldblum says to him, that man you were talking about is Eddie, and he was a friend of ours, and he saved our life. Don't be speaking to him about him like that. And he says about I don't have time for sentiment. His troubles are over. And he's right. He's gone. His troubles are over. Their troubles are only starting. They have to get off the island. But the way he says it, John, "And you're already dead," always reminds you of Robert Shaw.
You know what? It does have a similar tone in his voice. And again, very strong man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a leader, he's telling them, he's rallying his troops. He's calming them down. He's firing them up, to say, go out there and do a job. And the worst thing that's going to happen to you is that you're going to die, but you'll be in the afterlife, and you'll be free and you'll be happy. I don't know what their religious beliefs were there in those days. We do see him praying later, but this whole idea that there is an afterlife, that this isn't the end, it's not just darkness. You're just not a rotten corpse. So that's what he's saying there. But I have to say that I've thought about getting this as a tattoo. I love this next line he says. And again, when I talked about it at the start of the show about iconic lines, this is another one. He says, "What we do in life echoes in eternity."
Which is very true. Exactly. And that's what makes life important.
Yeah. So then we see the epic battle scenes with this amazing Hans Zimmer score playing. We see the brutality of war.
Mm-hmm.
You're shooting flaming arrows. Barbarians are being pinned back on the trees, and they're on fire as the Romans advance. And they're firing flaming cannonballs. And then we go into hand-to-hand combat, the sword fights, people being beheaded, losing limbs, blood spattering. What do you think about all that, John?
Brutal war definitely shows you that, it's just barbaric in general, like the way that this is, and it doesn't like it doesn't look like a classy war or anything like you would see in
No.
other movies. No, this is like really trying to show you that this is fucking brutal, and these people are dying in brutal ways, like literally people running around on fire. What a horrible way to go.
Yeah, and it's the brutality of the time as the Romans, they just advance going forward, and basically what it is at the end of the day is that they've got superior armor, they've got superior firepower, and they've got greater numbers, and they may take casualties, but they're gonna pretty much outfight these barbarians because of those factors. And most of the wars in those days were like that, very brutal. And one thing that actually struck me was how it's filmed. It's the same type of style as the start of Saving Private Ryan, the same type of camera.
Yeah, it's very like almost like moving around handheld within the combat, not long wide shots or anything.
I remember actually, it's been a while since I've watched Saving Private Ryan. I recently picked it up in 4K. Haven't watched special features in years or anything like that, but I always remember, I think I mentioned it in the Spielberg documentary, our Spielberg episode when he was on the film show, what I was watching. They talked about the specific cameras that they developed for those battle scenes, and whatever type of cameras they are, everything's in focus. Everything. The background's in focus, the foreground's in focus. It's the same with this. Everything's in focus. Nothing's blurred.
Yeah, I think I read about that, like some kind of like high shutter speed on the lenses that they're able to capture that. So that's how they're able to catch these while also keeping everything in focus.
Yeah, that makes it very realistic feeling as well. But
what
of course,
you want for war scenes.
Yeah, and I feel as if that's what they were trying to do here. That doesn't compare to see at the start of Saving Private Ryan, but it's a battle scene, and I think they wanted to just capture that brutality of it, and that war is not glorious at all, no matter what kind of fashion it's in, whether it's Second World War or these type of wars come back hundreds of years, and we will see that because we will see that in the common scenes with Marcus Aurelius about what he says. But Maximus is knocked off his horse and he's fighting several barbarians. And we see the barbarian leader slain. Then a flaming barbarian knocks Maximus over. Looks as if he's going to kill him when a Roman comes along and slices him from behind. And it's just weird, like how this great man, this great leader, is just like one of the pack, one of the tribe. He could easily be taken out, and a faceless Roman soldier kills the man that potentially is going to slay the leader. It's just your fate, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and also again, everything illustrating you how good of a man that this guy is.
Well, as I said about the brutality of war, there, as we both said about it, the Hans Zimmer score starts and with like a choir kind of singing, and it feels like it's a very humanitarian type of music while we're watching people die and be maimed. But as it comes towards the end of the battle, Maximus claims victory. Roma victa.
The outcome was never in doubt. It's just that these guys, were they going to go down like, bowing out, like, taking a knee, white flag waving, or were they going to go out like they wanted to? And like they did. They went out like, how you supposed to go out, and how the Romans would have gone out too if the shoe was on the other foot. You go out fighting, even though we knew that this outcome was never in doubt.
Yeah, exactly. You're right, because that's the whole start of the movie's about. They've obviously sent a guy up to ask them to surrender, and their response was, well, sent him back with no head. so they made their feelings quite clear. So the Romans had to move in, do it the tough way, the hard way. And we zoom in on Marcus Aurelius. He's got a very glum look on his face, very regretful look on his face, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of how his character is. He's got a lot of regret about like everything that's happened over the course of his life.
Yeah. And we cut their carriage going through the forest, and we see Commodus and Lucilla. And Commodus says, "Do you think he's really dying?"
And he's like, "He's been dying for the last 10 years. Joaquin Phoenix. Is this the first time you saw Joaquin?
Yeah.
I think this was a lot of people's first time seeing Joaquin. Ironically, I thought this was the first time I saw Joaquin, but I actually grew up with a Ron Howard movie that had him in it called Parenthood, when he was still going by Leaf Phoenix.
Yeah, well, the thing is that he's one of those guys that, everybody knew River.
Mm-hmm.
And then he died tragically.
Joaquin was the one who called the cops that night.
That's right. So I think that Joaquin was always in his shadow because of how great. Oh, careful. Okay. It's just I don't want to pull this out. All right, bud. just because of how great a child actor River was, and he was in some real high profile movies, and he was almost being groomed to be the next big thing. He was in Indiana Jones Last Crusade, and I remember seeing a thing online that people said that Leonardo DiCaprio has had the career that River Phoenix would have had if he hadn't died.
There's a strong possibility of that.
Yeah. So I feel like he was possibly always under the shadow of his brother, and then when he tragically died, that overshadowed the Phoenixes. Me personally, like, yeah, I think this is the first movie I've seen him in, mate, and I wasn't even really. I don't know if I was aware it was his brother. Maybe I was. I mean, I wasn't a big River Phoenix fan, or anything like that. But now that he's went on to be one of the best actors of his generation, and he's won an Oscar, and he's done one of the best portrayals of the Joker in cinema history, in my opinion. Such a great movie. I've looked back at some of the things he's done as a younger person, as a child, and things like that, and he's always been very talented.
He's a great actor. He's definitely one of the best of our generation right now. And at this point, his career, like, he was definitely in River's shadow for a very long time, but I would say probably in the last 15 years. This is his first great role, but I think at this point, people will probably know Joaquin Phoenix more than they know River Phoenix, just because it's been so long since River's passed away.
Yeah, and he was so young when he passed away too, so he was only really, he hadn't even started his career, you know what I mean? And look, you don't know. It's like I keep saying, some of these stars die young, and we build up this myth and fantasy in our heads about what they could have been. Like, the guy obviously had problems. He had a drug problem, and you don't know if he had made anything out of his life. But it's tragic, and I don't know if that. I know that Joaquin is. I've seen interviews with him. He's very. I think he's a very. He can be a strange guy, but he's very thoughtful, and I think a lot of what he does is off the back of the lessons he learned about River.
Yeah, I think he's a very private guy. I don't think he likes, like, he definitely doesn't, I think, feel comfortable in the public eye, but I think he likes to be an actor. Is how I kind of always read it.
Yeah, I think he's very spiritual and stuff as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, their whole family is like, that's why, like, he's the only one that's why he wanted to go by Leaf. Like, they were like traveling like hippies almost.
They were like flower people type thing.
Yeah, exactly. They all had names. Yeah, that's why his name was River Phoenix. Like, they were all named.
There's one called Sky.
Yeah, one of them's called Sky. Like, he went by Leaf. His name's Joaquin, but the reason why I wanted to go by Leaf because he was the only one that didn't have a name like that. So he kind of wanted to fit in with his siblings and everything.
Well, listen, people forget as well. A great movie. I've only seen it the once. I watched it one New Year's Eve when I wasn't going out anywhere, and I'd never seen it. It was on the TV, and I'll give us a watch. And I thought, this is really good. This movie is Walk the Lane. He's absolutely outstanding in that movie. Very good movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, he sings. Like, one thing unfortunately with a lot of those biopics is the actors don't sing. Like Freddie Mercury a couple of years ago, played by Ronnie Malik. He didn't sing. That's all cover. But this is a guy who actually, those covers of those Johnny Cash songs are him, and they're good. I'll listen to the Joaquin Phoenix versions.
Yeah, no, that was Queen actually singing that in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, which I was quite happy with, because when I watched Rocket Man, I didn't really like it, and I hated the fact that it wasn't Elton John singing the songs. Whereas, like, when I watched Bohemian Rhapsody in the cinema and it was proper Queen songs blasting, it was amazing. So
that's a great one for the cinema. That's 100% a good one to see, just because it's like you're basically seeing a concert of Queen, and they knew what they were doing. They just wanted a guy that looked like Freddie Mercury. There's just things in that movie where it's like all this stuff I'm supposed to believe this all happened in one day.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. But there's tropes in those kinds of movies.
Yeah, but you have to condense things, though. You have to condense things to tell a story in a movie sometimes, it's not totally accurate. But no, I really like Bohemian Rhapsody. But the thing about Commodus in this, and we'll get to it as well, is that I hated him in this movie, but I watched it.
It's terrible.
And as you get older, you realize that if a character's supposed to be hateful and you hate them, they're doing a great job. It's like, again, The Sopranos, like Janice in The Sopranos, hate that character, but here, what a brilliant actress, because you're supposed to hate her.
Yeah. I mean, the character Joey Pants on that, like, you hate him at first, and then when he dies, you're like, you're starting to come around for me.
You're sorry to see him go.
Yeah, and it's like, I hated him. He was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So, so Lucilla, says he's been dying for 10 years. As you had said that, Lane, and but Commodus thinks Commodus thinks they've obviously been summoned. And he says he's made his decision. He's going to announce it. He will name me. The first thing I shall do is honor him with games worthy of his majesty. So he's already thinking about games I don't know, I assume gladiator games or some type of games, which we found out later on Marcus realized get rid of, which is weird. So they pull up to their destination, and Commodus gets out and asks, where's the Emperor? And one of the soldiers says, at the front, sire. They've been gone for 19 days. The wounded are still coming in. Commodus asks his sister for a kiss, and she blows him one, and he rides off.
Which is, good setup for these characters. First time we see them.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because their relationship seems normal here.
Like a normal brother and sister.
Yeah, but as we get into the movie, it becomes really weird. I don't know if that was a part of the saying of the times, or it was just because he became more and more twisted. Probably,
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, but the times were very strange with kind of things like this.
Yeah, like incest.
Yeah, exactly. It was just of the time, unfortunately.
But you're right. I think it is both. I think he becomes more demented, and we'll see that as the movie goes on, especially the makeup, because his eyes get darker and darker. He's like, getting more evil.
Yeah, exactly.
More consumed with power and not being accepted. He becomes a bit twisted.
Yeah, he's trying to be all proper here and like do the things like so I'll arrange the games and everything like what he's expected to do as the leader. It's like, but once he feels betrayed by his father, things just start to go more and more crazy for him.
Yeah, we'll get to, and of course we will get to them. And meanwhile, here Maximus retrieves a sword from the tree. I like that shot, just of a sword in the tree where he has to come up and pull it out. And then the Emperor arrives. It's Marcus. He says, "You have proved your valor yet again, Maximus. Let us hope for the last time." And Maximus says, "There's no one left to fight, sire." And Marcus says, "There's always someone left to fight. Maximus, tell me, how can I reward Rome's greatest general?" And Maximus says, "Let me go home." And he says, "Oh, home."
This is great. That's the whole arc of his character, is that he just wants to go home.
Like E.T.
Yep, he just wants exactly. He's just him, and who would have thought? Russell Crowe and E.T. Same character arcs.
Yeah. which I found was 24/7.
Honestly, perfect name for her.
Oh, don't be touching my computer.
Yeah. Perfect name for her. She's just like a xenomorph, comes in the frame like that.
I know she is. Stop. Hey, listen, you're touching my stuff here, Ripley, and you're gonna knock something off. I know you are. Sit down. Good girl. You've touched my bloody script here. Oh yeah, but that was really fun. I seen an interview with the guy that done the 50th anniversary Jaws documentary, and I can't remember if this is in the documentary, but he talked about when he first spoke to Steven Spielberg about his early movies, and basically all his early movies are about people that just want to go home.
Yeah, I mean, don't we all? Isn't that the life thing? Well, you're at work all day, I just want to go home.
Yeah. When you're on holiday, you're like, I can't wait to get home.
I know, exactly. You set your home out to be the place where you relax, and these people, like Marcus, like they're these people are out. Maximus, they're out for years and years out there.
Away from their families.
Yeah, and it's not like now you could just text someone. Like we never lose contact with people anymore. But like this is it. Like I'll see you in 2 years. All right, see you later.
Yeah, Rome's calling.
Exactly. Like what will you do for your country? These people really put their money where their mouth is back then. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially in a time when life expectancy was a lot lower.
If you hit 30, you were like lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I was lucky. I hit 30. So we see Commodus arriving. Here we go. So we see Commodus arriving on the scene, and we see the army roaring for Maximus. He's cheering, and he's like, "It's for you, sire." And he's like, "It's not. It's for you, Maximus." And I love how Commodus gets off his horse. Commodus sees this, and when he gets off his horse, and he's like, "Have I missed it? Have I missed the battle?"
It's like, you missed the war.
Yeah, that's what Marcus says to him. But I made a note here, John. Commodus is Jaffrey before Jaffrey was Jaffrey.
Oh, yeah.
Game of Thrones.
100%. He's the biggest coward in the world, but acts like he's the king.
Yeah, and Marcus knows it fine, right? That's why he's like, "Oh, have I missed it?" And he's like, "You've missed the war. You missed the whole damn thing."
Well, at least like other than in Game of Thrones, at least they're not like putting him on a pedestal or anything. Like Marcus is very well aware of who his son is.
Yeah, and he tells him to honor Maximus because it was Maximus that won the war. So not only is he saying, "Oh, you missed the war," this is the guy that won it. And she's pawing at me. What do you want? Stop picking me up. Stop it.
She just wants some pets.
You know what she wants, John? She lies down and she wants me to rub her belly. I'm not rubbing her belly. Sit down. Come on.
Old dogs like that, their chest and belly rubbed.
I should just lies her, doing her back. Just me rubbing her belly.
They love that.
Yeah. So he said. So he hugs Maximus and says, and says he embraces him as a brother and asks Marcus, and then he asks Marcus, his dad, to take his arm. But Marcus can't. Everyone said he kind of snubs him. He snubs the gesture, and then he says he must leave, but he gets on the horse, and then when Maximus goes to help him with his putting his feet in the saddle, so then we cut the night and what looks to be a post-battle celebration or a party. There's music playing and everybody's having a great time. And then we see Maximus washing the blood off his hands. And he bumps into Valorous and Quintus. And Valorous asks him, are you going back to your barracks, General, or to Rome? And that's when he tells him, home, the wife, the son, the harvest. And Quintus says, Maximus the farmer. I still have difficulty imagining that. And Maximus says to him, Quintus, dirt cleans off a lot easier than blood.
That is true.
And so you can just tell that he doesn't revel in the killing. He doesn't like it. Like he says later on to Proximo, I kill because I have to. Not
It's a
because I
job
want
to him.
Well, there's others that would kill because they want to.
Yeah, there's people who do this for the barbaric nature of it. He's just doing it because that's his duty to Rome.
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, 100%, John. You're right. And then Commodus appears, introducing Senator Gaius and Senator Falco. And they have this whole discussion. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of politicking going on here. And you see Commodus taunting him about Republic. And Gaius says, well, Rome was founded on a republic. And Commodus says, yes, and in a republic, the Senate has the power. But Senator Gaius is not influenced by that, of course. So you can tell he's actually begrudging the fact that the Senate have power over Rome.
Yeah, which he obviously hates, but that's exactly what, Maximus wants to return to, is to that, which, in a logical situation, you shouldn't have one almighty leader. You would think that you'd want other input, but Commodus doesn't see it that way.
Well, if you look at over history, John, I mean, a lot of the Western world has moved away from monarchy to, what do you call it?
Democracy?
Democracy. It's the word. Can't think of the word there. Yeah. The governments and democracy and politicians and things like that. And that's basically what we have here. That's what's going on here. He's saying, and Falco does ask Maximus then, where do you stand, General, Emperor or Senate? And Maximus, as I said, responds because he's a soldier, and the way a soldier would. A soldier has the advantage of being able to look his enemy in the eye, Senator.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is, again, you just pointed out, this is just like the politics of the time that they're pointing out. Rome in real life, I looked up this because Gladiator 2 came out last year. I was looking up what the politics were. They wouldn't have emperors for that long at all because people would just keep turning on them and kicking them out of power, killing them. Assassinating, like over and over and over again, because society at the time, it's not like how it is now. You could just do things like that constantly, and unfortunately it seemed to happen just over again and over again and over again in Rome. Like, you could see how this stuff happens.
And I think also what Maximus is doing there, he's having a dig at him and basically saying that able to look the enemy in the eye. In other words, they take their enemies out sneakily and behind the scenes, you know what I mean, underhandedly, as I said, stabbing them in the back. And I think that's what Maximus is having a dig at the senator there about that.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't look at them as the greatest people either. Maximus is has the gift of seeing his whole life and everything that's happened behind him, and now he's looking at is this worthy of it? So. And
I think and Commodus sees how this conversation is going, and that's why he puts Maximus away from the politicians, and we quickly see Lucilla spying on them. And Commodus tries to recruit Maximus on his side against the politicians.
Yeah,
Maximus tells him when his father releases him, he intends to return home. Sorry, John, what were you going to say there, mate?
No, I was just going to actually say that, basically what you just said.
Yeah.
They're just showing you again how Maximus just wants to go home. Commodus is trying to work all these angles, with his father and everything like that. He just has one thing that he wants to do. That's why, again, it's just so fucked up what Commodus does, because he knows this Commodus, but he still does everything he does to him.
Well, he knows, and it's mentioned in the movie as well, that Maximus commands the respect of the army. And if he says, he does, Maximus just wants to go, he should have just let Maximus go home and be a farmer. But he knows that if Maximus takes the side of the Senate, then he's no leverage whatsoever. But if he has Maximus on his side who controls the armies, then he's got the leverage. So I think that's what he's trying to do. He's already kind of suggested his disdain for the Senate because he wants to be the all-powerful. But he can't be the all-powerful if he doesn't rule the army.
No, the army could just overwhelm him. He
So,
has to have that respect, but he knows that this guy has the respect. But if he just would have let him go home like he wanted to, like, but I guess they're figuring like, well, if he gets word of this, he's going to come back in the army and they'll listen to him and not me.
yeah, well, as we get into it, we know why he has to get rid of him. But at this stage, he's already conniving and plotting because he thinks his dad is going to name him the next emperor, and he wants to be the all powerful. So the chances are he's going to move against the Senate no matter what. He mentions it later, but getting rid of them. Do you know what I mean? He says it later on about getting rid of them, and the sister kind of talks him out of it. But he needs the army on his side, so that's why he does this. I think Commodus doesn't look happy with Maximus's response and informs him the Scylla's here. She has not forgotten you. And now you are the great man. He makes a snide comment. Now you're the great man.
So you're just a good human now.
Well, it's kind of said in as I say, a snidey type of way. You're the great man now. Oh, do you know she's here? We cut to Marcus entering the tent and we see the Scylla peering out at Maximus. And I love how Marcus says there, if only you'd been born a man, what a Caesar you would have made. What do you make of that?
I mean, he's not wrong. Like, she's the stronger of the two of them, but she's the more honorable of the two of them. He ended up with this like weasel conniving son, and like she's a very powerful. But unfortunately, at the time, it's just there's no way that a woman could be a Caesar. It has to be the son. The son just happens to be a little weasel.
Weasel is the exact word. Weasel has been on my mind this week. Because of what's happening at my football club at this minute. Okay, that's been the word of the week. I've been calling everybody weasels, but he's the ultimate weasel in this movie. So he is. And you're
always a weak man is always a weasel. Like that's
just
someone who always will be conniving and sneaking and oh my god, and that's exactly what Joaquin Phoenix is in this movie.
Yeah, and as you say, whining and about stuff. Yeah. Let go my way. Ooh.
The worst that humanity has to freaking represent are people like that who act like they're the almighty when they're never willing to get their hands dirty. I hate those fucking people.
But you're right about this, Scylla, because Marcus says there, you would have been strong. I wonder, would you have been just? And she says, I would have been whatever you taught me to be. So she's a great student too, unlike again the weasel, who just doesn't seem to get it. And as I've written in my own notes here, John, you can tell Marcus favors his daughter over his failed son, and he sees her strong. He asks her to help him with her brother. So he kind of knows she has some influence over this guy. But I love this line he then says there about enough politics. Let us pretend that you are a loving daughter and I'm a good father.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, you can give that, I guess, at the end of his life. Like, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to be a little bit more sentimental. I think Richard Harris plays it great, actually, this character.
I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
In this film, absolutely brilliant. As I say, forgot to mention earlier, I recently watched him in a movie called Orca, which is apparently one of the best Jaws ripoffs. It's watchable, and he's in it. He plays like a quint character in it, and but he's quite cheesy. But in this, he's really good.
Yeah, I think he gets across a king at the end of his life kind of thing very, very well. Like looking back at his entire life and everything that he's done. I think it, sentimental, not very strong anymore, just becoming a little bit more weaker. I think it's illustrated very well.
Yeah. Fellow countryman.
Yes, very proud. Oh, yeah, so exactly.
Down south, when I went to watch the play, The Shark is Broken, we went into the bar and they had photographs all around of all the actors that had acted in that theater, and one was Richard Harris.
Oh, that's awesome. This movie was filled with some of the greatest drinkers in Hollywood history, in between Richard Harris and Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed as well. Well, obviously we'll get to him, but he died while making this movie. He drunk himself to death, but he is actually buried in Cork in the Republic of Ireland as well. Even though he's an Englishman.
These guys, that's not helping the stereotypes that Irish are drinkers, I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, he was actually English, but he's probably, I don't know why he's buried in Cork, but obviously probably good friends with Richard Harris and people like that.
Yeah, they probably, I think I've heard that they did hang out together and drink together,
Yeah, the Hellraisers, I think they were called.
Yeah, they were big in that, just of the time, man. Like, no one was going to stop them back then.
No, I think it was just a culture thing. It was the thing to do.
Yeah, it was more accepted back then. Exactly. We have so much different forms of entertainment now. They just went out and drank together.
Well, I think what they done was when they were doing a show. I mean, these are to me. I don't know too much about their personal lives, but like Robert Shaw, they were stage actors, and what they done was when they finished the show, they went to the pub.
Yeah, just
And I
drank
think
together.
that was just a culture thing at the time, where probably now it's a completely different culture, whereas like stage actors probably, go for a coffee or something.
Yeah, very, very different. They weren't into like the whole. It's just different world. And we got to respect how the culture was back then. And it's just of course they pay for it in the end.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So it is. But where am I? Yes, next morning, Maximus walks through the camp and he sees Commodus practicing sword fighting with several other soldiers. Now, this is the thing I'm confused about because it looks handy with the steel I wrote down here. He's got 5 or 6 guys around him, but to me, this is just kind of like paint by numbers. It's not a real fight because he is supposedly the heir to the throne.
They're not
Which,
gonna do anything that's gonna hurt him.
yeah, so it's just him kind of showing off, kind of bum, 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 but like in a real battle, he's not taking out 6 guys. But you see Maximus just kind of looking at him.
He's building his ego.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it is. But later, Maximus enters Marcus's tent, and Marcus laments his time as Caesar, stating out of 20 years, he's known 4 years of peace, and he seems regretful of his time as emperor. He says, and for what? I brought the sword, nothing more.
Yeah, again, that's just showing you like how and this is why Richard Harris is so good in this role, because he comes across as a guy who's looking back at his life with regret.
Yeah, and he says to him, I am dying, Maximus. But no, I like how Maximus calls him Caesar. Like, you can tell here how much Maximus
Respects him.
respects him, but how he kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm tired of myself here, mate.
Admires him.
I'm as tired as Richard Harris is, and his character is here. He refutes what he's saying. He goes to defend what they've been doing. He believes in what they're doing, but the wiser older man doesn't see the benefits of it or the outcome of it that he would like. But I like how Maximus calls him Caesar, but he puts his hand up and he says, please don't call me that. But Marcus invites Maximus to sit down and to talk as men. And Maximus tells him that he will not believe his men fought for nothing, and that they fought for Marcus Aurelius, Caesar, and Rome. And he asks him, oh, what is Rome? And he says, Rome is the light. But then Marcus goes on to say that he's concerned he'll be known as a tyrant. And he says, or will I be remembered as the emperor who gave Rome back to her true self? He tells him there once was a dream that was Rome. You could only whisper it. Anything more than a whisper and it would vanish. It was so fragile, and I fear that it will not survive the winter. So he's having an awful lot of regret about what Rome will be viewed as.
It's legacy, essentially, and how it's going to be going forward once he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And he's talking to the person that he essentially wants to replace him, or at least hold like what is going in a trust of his power to eventually be transferred to the Senate, of like how it was originally designed. So even though he just spent his 20 years like as essentially a Caesar, the head of the table, really like, but he feels like maybe that was the wrong path to go, even though he still likes the path of Rome.
Yeah, and first of all, just it's almost like with his daughter earlier, John, where he's like, look, let's pretend pretend, he says to, so he knows he has his flaws and his faults, let's pretend, loving daughter, I'm a good father. But he asked Maximus personal questions. He asked him about his son, his home, and we see like Maximus the general, the leader, opens up as Maximus the family man. And we see how Marcus is amused just learning about this man. It's almost like, because he says to him like, oh, you have a son, but it's almost like he doesn't know anything more than him being this great soldier, a great leader, or a great general. But then he does ask him, Maximus, when was the last time we were home? And Maximus says, 2 years, 264 days, and this morning.
I love that. And this morning, like literally, this is all I want to do is go. Can you imagine being away for that long from like not seeing your daughter?
Yeah, I mean it's nearly 3 years.
And like no contact. Like like you don't know if if they were like all right. I assume that they get message somehow, a word or word somehow about how they're doing. But can you just imagine? I could not imagine that.
Yeah, no photographs, no nothing. Maybe get a pigeon maybe sent you a message.
Like your son's growing. Like you're gonna get there, and he's gonna be almost 3 years older than when you left.
Yeah, the 3 years is a long time in the grand scheme of a child's life.
While they're growing, like he doesn't even really know his father.
Yeah, but Marcus says to him, I envy you, Maximus. It's a good home, worth fighting for. There's one more duty that I ask of you before you go home. He says, I want you to become the protector of Rome after I die. I will empower you to one end alone, to give power back to the people of Rome and end the corruption that has crippled it. Maximus declines because he thinks politicians must do it. And Marcus tells him that's exactly the reason why he should do it. You have not been corrupted by her politics. Maximus asks about Commodus, and Marcus says, Commodus is not a moral man. You have known that since you were young. Commodus cannot rule. He must not rule. You are the son that I should have had. What a slap in the face for Commodus. I mean, he's really getting this from every angle, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's
But think about it, right? Okay, we all know Commodus is an asshole, okay? He's a weasel, and he deserves everything that's coming. However,
100%.
since this movie started, we have seen his father snub him, right? We have seen, Maximus not really kind of be bothered about him. Even the soldiers don't really seem to have any respect for him. We have seen his father tell his sister, "Oh, if only you were born a man, you would have been a great Caesar." And now he's saying to bloody Maximus, "You're the son I should have had."
Yeah. I mean, listen, if I had these two kids, if I had Maximus and I had Commodus, I think feel the same exact way, like having to sit across from this guy. You just know he's just so weak and everything. But we'll get to his scene where he explains like all this stuff, and it must be just by nature because his daughter's is a strong woman. Like he grew up the same way, I assume. It's just must be like this. The nature about him is just this like weak, weaselly man.
Yeah, sometimes I think about these situations. It's kind of like the daughters took the characteristics of the father, and possibly the sons took the characteristics of his mother.
Must be. We don't know who his mother is,
or maybe it is just that he was been so mollycoddled his whole life by his mother. It's he's just a weasel.
Yeah, he's been pampered his whole life. He's lived in the best places, eating the best food. He doesn't know what it's like to be like boots on the ground, like a soldier, like Maximus is.
Yeah, but how many times do we see? We're in the entertainment world here, talking about movies every other week, and how many times do we see, like, for example, what's the word again? I'm struggling to find a word now, but it's basically like children trying to live off their parents' names. Parents who are, even if it's a sports star, their parents, we see it in boxing all the time. Their parents are like legends in the game, and then their sons are like, I want to be just like my dad, and they come along and they're not even like a fraction of their father, but they think they can do it because of their dad's a big name. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they think they can get it without earning it. Essentially, it's like, but they don't realize that like a big part of why their father or mother got to that point is because they actually had the grind of like earning that. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like when it's given to you, you don't have as much respect for it. You just essentially you believe just like he does that he's entitled to it.
Yeah, nepotism. That's the word I was looking for. But nepotism's more when you put your children in a position just because of who you are. But that's a wee bit different. But it's like you're right, John. It's like if you take boxing as an example. I'm not going to name anybody because it's not fair to do it. Because some of my favorite boxers of all time were legends in the sport, and their sons come along and because, as I said, because their fathers do great, they think they can live up to them, and it must be difficult living up to the name. But a lot of these fighters, but as you said, they come from really poor backgrounds, really rough areas, and fighting's the only thing they know what to do, and they become very talented at it, and they become big names. They make a lot of money, and as you say, they raise their sons in a way that they keep them sheltered from that life, so they don't have to do it. And you hear a lot of fighters say that I do this so my kids don't have to do it, but their kids think because they're their sons that they should be doing it, but they don't come from that same world. I've heard Mike Tyson say it about one of his sons or his kids. He says, I don't want my kids growing up in my world. He's like, because why they wouldn't last 5 minutes. So I brought them to my own neighborhood once and they couldn't believe it. He says they're brought up, he says they're brought up in a, go to private school. They've got all the best stuff. He says, then I show them where I came from, where like I had nothing, and that terrifies them.
Yeah, I mean, it comes from a good place, a good-hearted place from these parents. Like, I earned it so my kids don't have to, but you don't realize the effect that has on their psyche. It's because now they go out in the world. That's why it aggravates the hell out of me. Like when I see like billionaires' kids coming out and like then talking down to people like, oh, they just need to save money. It's like, well, what the fuck have you done in your entire life except be born? Like you were just born to a rich person and you feel like you're entitled and already above people. It's like, but you couldn't do what I do. You just assume you could just because of where you came from, and that's not right. Unfortunately though, but that's what these people do, and Commodus is just a perfect representation of those kinds of people.
Yeah, the guy said earlier he's entitled. He thinks he's entitled to this. This is the next step. This is the natural progression. But again, it's like, I don't think so. It's just running my mind there. I mean, maybe this is what he has been brought up to believe, and now Marcus Aurelius is changing it.
I believe that. I 100% think that. I think he was probably told from a very young age that he would eventually take his place. But now that Marcus has changed his mind, his perspective on everything, and he realizes I can't turn it over to this. Like maybe he thought he would eventually evolve and grow into the man he thought he would be. It just didn't work out that way. And he explains like, it's failures of me as a father, but I'm not going to turn over Rome to you. You can't have it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm actually just laughing there. I was just thinking maybe he's been told this because I started thinking about like the British royal family and how when Harry met Meghan and how he's kind of left Emmons and went to America, and I remember laughing at the time, thinking that maybe she didn't understand that like he's not in line for the throne, and when she found out that like he's not even second in line when William started having children, that she all of a sudden was like, what are you doing here? Why are you with these people?
I always just think of the line from The Naked Gun when Leslie Nielsen gets up there. He's like, as ridiculous as it is to have a queen to us, we have to respect these people.
Yeah. And as I said in your live show today, I literally watched that on Saturday night. It's very funny.
It's such a great one.
It is a great movie. Another one we'll have to do at some stage.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. But Marcus Aurelius says, Commodus will accept my decision. He knows that you command the loyalty of the army. See, which is what I was saying earlier. Maximus says he needs time, and Marcus says he hopes he agrees by sunset and asks him to bring an old man another blanket. So outside the tent, Maximus bumps into Lucilla, and Lucilla says to him, my father favors you now. So they'll have a conversation, and you can tell these two have a history. So again, so this is very weird to me in this movie, John, because we're trying to introduce the love interest here, but we clearly know and see that Maximus loves his wife. So I don't understand this tension between these two. So it does look as if they had some kind of romance in the past.
Unfortunately, this does get retconned in Gladiator 2 to where this actually gets I don't know if you've read it or saw Gladiator 2, but I was choosing to ignore it for this, but just to bring up just that they do kind of piggyback on this in the second movie, that it makes a little bit more sense. But I agree with you. It's like we don't I didn't need this.
I like their relationship. I really do. They've got great chemistry. She's very beautiful looking. I was watching the making of earlier. She looks a hell of a lot older in this movie than what she did in real life at the time. But she's
beautiful in real life, right?
Beautiful in real life, yeah. I can
know.
believe it was the same woman. I mean, she's still beautiful in this, but obviously she's done up.
She's got to be period accurate,
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. When I seen her making Gladiator 2, I kind of
you knew where it was going, right?
Well, I did know where it was going, and then I was like, do I need it? And see, to be honest, from what the limited stuff that I've heard, it doesn't exist to me. I don't like the idea of where they go with Lucius or anything like that. I'm happy the way it is in this movie, and I do like their relationship in this movie, and I like the idea that if Maximus didn't die in this movie, he could have had a life with her and Lucius. Whether it's his son or not, it doesn't matter. I like to think it's not.
I like to think it's not.
Yeah, and it kind of sets that up for you as the movie goes on. Then all of a sudden they go, oh no, he dies.
Yeah.
So it's heartbreaking. Well, it is and it isn't. It's bittersweet because he goes home to his family, which is the whole point of the movie. But it sets up the idea that he could have a relationship with this woman whose husband has died also. So I'm just confused about the relationship because they don't go into too much detail, which is fine because we always talk about we don't want too much explaining about exposition about things. We don't always want things explained, but there's definitely tension between them as if they've had a past relationship and they've kind of moved on to other people and moved on with their lives. There's a bit of tension there, but she asks, she's doing a bit of fishing now for either for Marcus or for Commodus. I'm not sure, but she says, will he serve her brother as he served her father? But I love Maximus's coy answer. He says, I will serve Rome.
That's what's most important, which, that's what he's been doing, and he'll continue to do it.
But he's only saying this because he knows of Marcus's Dan wish.
And which, if he would have said it here, maybe the outcome wouldn't have happened.
Well, I think that if Marcus hadn't asked him to do that, he probably would have just told her the same thing that he told Commodus. I'm going home to my family.
That's a good point. Yeah, he's right now. This just happened. He's thinking about it. It's still on his mind. Yeah, it's fresh.
He knows what Commodus is trying to recruit him, but he knows what Marcus's wishes are. He was already asked about Commodus. What about Commodus? And he says, will he accept my decision? So she's asking, are you going to serve my brother? And he's saying, no, I'm going to serve Rome, because he's making his mind up to do the wishes of Marcus, right? That's what I think there anyway. And as I say, mentioned earlier, they give some exposition about her husband, Dan, and they ask about each other's sons. So we're getting a wee bit more information about their lives as well, just slightly. He goes off, but that night Maximus prays to his figurines, which represent his wife and son. I like how he kisses the wife one and sets it back. I mean, you talk about being away for that long and not having photographs or being able to make a phone call. These figures are like his emotional connection to his family.
It's all he's got.
Yeah, that's why he kisses her and puts her back down again.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Brutal way to live.
Yeah. Tough times. He then tells his servant, what's his name? Sakuro? We may not be able to go home after all. I love how he asks him, but there's something along the lines of, do you not get fed up doing what you're doing? And he says, I do, but I have to because I got asked to do it.
Yeah, he's a good man. I mean, it's tough, but I honestly, if I was him, I'd probably do the same thing too. Like, there's some things that are bigger than me.
But it's like us all in our lives, isn't it, John?
His honor. He's an honorable man.
Yeah, but like if we didn't have to work, would we do it?
Exactly. But I mean, again, it's all like, if you really want to talk about it, I mean, it's just they're manipulating him as it is, for a country, for England, James, kind of thing.
Yeah, is duty and all that, honor and duty, and we all have allegiances throughout our lives.
Yeah, like, exactly. But you got to weigh it on your own personal merits, like what means more to you, and like your morals and everything. Yeah,
but we all have it in our lives, as in like family and country and things like that. It's funny. I was watching the Gaelic, the GAA, the Gaelic games. It was the All Ireland final on Sunday. So it was. So it's basically, like, I don't really watch too many Gaelic games, but that's a big sporting event in the calendar in Ireland. And it's basically like it comes down to two counties on the island, and they play to win the All Ireland final, the knockout tournament to get to the final. But the final was Kerry and Donegal, and my mum, who's not really into sports, asked, who would we be hoping wins? And she said Kerry, and we were like, no, like Donegal, because Donegal is in Ulster, and Ulster's a province, so the province of Ulster takes in 9 counties, and we live in Antrim, and one of the counties is Donegal, so Kerry is part of Munster, so there's 4 provinces, and that's what I turned and said to my mum. I says the hierarchy is county, province, country. That's the hierarchy. So if Antrim was in the final against Donegal, which would never happen because Antrim's rubbish, we would be supporting Antrim, right? But if it's an Ulster province against another province, then we'll be supporting the Ulster province. That's just the hierarchy of things.
That's the way she goes.
So there you go. A bit of a sidestep there for you. So yeah, where am I? So yes, we cut the Commodus entering the Emperor's tent, and he touches the statue. Marcus asks him,
are you ready to do your duty for Rome?
And Marcus tells him, you will not be emperor. My powers will pass to Maximus to hold in trust until the Senate is ready to rule once more. Rome is to be a republic again. So this is Commodus' worst nightmare coming true.
Yeah. And I mean, he can't believe it either. And I love that Marcus lays it out for him completely, honestly, doesn't beat around the bush, tells him directly what's going on, even though he probably knows like his Commodus is not going to take this well, but he's got to do what's best for Rome in this case.
Yeah, and I wrote a note here. Commodus gives a sniveling speech.
Oh my god, I know. Breaks down like a little bitch.
Yeah, but I do like how, well, I do and I don't, because it's kind of, I hate to see what's coming, but obviously it's part of the story. But Marcus is I think regretful in the way Commodus has turned out. I think when he gets down on his knees and he says, "Your faults as a son is my failure as a father." Mm-hmm. He's pretty much asking for forgiveness, but of course the psychopath in Commodus and the entitlement, he smothers Marcus
Yeah, and the first time I saw this, I was, I think we're supposed to be a little confused at like what's he doing. Like, is he killing him? Like, would he go that
Mhm.
far? But he is. He's like that. I don't know if he went in there with the intention, if he heard this, that he would kill him. But I think in the moment, he just snaps and then comes up with the plan.
I agree. I don't think he was planning
Mhm.
to kill him or slay him. Like we say, he's that self-involved and that self-entitled that I think he thinks this is just, this is his. And I think just the anger, whatever you want to call it, the disappointment, he does it the spur of the moment. And of course, Marcus being old and weak and ill, he's unable to fight free from him smothering him when he's holding him into his chest or his belly or his chest or whatever. And I love that shot, John, when it shows the statue, this hulking statue of Marcus Aurelius, the warrior, because he mentions that earlier. Well, I mean, known as the warrior, and he's just as weak as a baby. But the camera just slightly pulls itself down. What do you think about that shot? What do you think they're doing there?
I mean, I think it's just showing like what he was into what he became. Like the strong man, and he dies a weak man, unfortunately.
But the camera pulling down, is it like him being dragged down the hill, or is it like, it almost looks like the statue's watching down on us, but the camera's being pulled down.
I guess it would be him
Or,
going.
or his fall from grace.
Fall from grace is I think a better way to put it. Like essentially, I'm thinking of like, you start at that's when you're at your strongest, and now you're at your weakest. I mean, he died, but he couldn't even fight it. Like you said, he was an old, weak man, but when he was strong, he was a strong warrior.
Yeah.
So I just looked at it like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you look at it a little different?
I'm probably looking too much into it. What I mean is just that shot from the statue going down. I just really like it, and I'm just.
Oh, it's a beautiful shot.
What is Ridley Scott trying to tell us about? I mean, that's a decision. That's a conscious decision from the director to show that statue and just have it lower down. It looks almost like the statue's looking at you, looking down, and what's happening, as if what's it trying to say? What's it trying to tell us? And I don't know, but it's I don't know. I like it.
I do. It's a beautiful shot. I like it too.
Yeah, and we cut to Maximus, and Quintus tells him the Emperor needs you. It is urgent. Maximus is lands half sleeping. He comes in, he pulls a dagger on him. He's always sleeping with one eye open. Is Maximus, and the next scene, Commodus tells him, "Our great father is dead," and he says, "I've written here. I think Maximus knows something isn't right."
Oh, he knows. He's 100% like not buying what is being told to him.
Yeah. He knows right away something's up here, especially after the conversation that they've had. And then Commodus says to him, "Your emperor asks for your loyalty, Maximus. Take my hand. I only offer it once."
I hate that. What a smug, like he just died. You don't even give any chance to process. Like he just right away, but that's because he knew how much he valued Maximus. So he's like, I get on my side now, or I'll do what I have to do. Like you get one shot, that's it. And of course, he walks right out of that tent and doesn't even acknowledge him.
Well, of course, do you think as well that Maximus knows because of Commodus's reaction to his father's death? Because he knows he's a weak man, that if his father did die of natural causes, he'd probably be a sniveling heap.
You'd be crying and everything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he's acting very like nonchalant about it, like it just happened.
Like he's almost pleased it happened in a kind of way. And you're right, so he snubs him and walks out. But I like how they show Lucilla. She slaps Commodus. Do you think she knows?
Oh, I always took it as she knows.
Yeah. But he's now the one in power. So
there's nothing she can do. There's nothing that he can do. Like that's it. That this is how it's going to be. He died in private without ever hearing what he said to Maximus. So unfortunately, the logical next step is for it to go to him.
Yep. Which is why she then kisses his hand and says, "Hail Caesar," before he kills her as well. But I'll tell you something. She's no Mrs. Kentner.
No, she is not.
No,
she not the greatest slap, but gets the point across.
Gets the point across, yeah. And the next scene, Quintus tells Maximus to be careful. That was not prudent. But Maximus tells him the emperor has been slain. And Quintus says, "Maximus, please do not fight. I am sorry. Caesar has spoken." If you see here, how do you say his name? I've written it down here, but I can't say it. Surigo or Circo. Anyway, his servant, we'll just call him. I can't say his name. He looks at Maximus as if to handle a sword, but Maximus shakes his head. And then Quintus turns to the Praetorian guards. He says, "Raid him until dawn, then execute him." Maximus says, "Quintus, look at me. Look at me. Promise me that you'll look after my family." And Quintus says to him,
"Your family will meet you in the afterlife."
So he screams and the knock Maximus out.
Isn't this like such a quick 180 from like what we just saw like a few minutes earlier when he was talking? Like it seemed like it was going to be a whole different life where he's grappling with like, not being able to see his family because he's got to do more for Rome, to now finding out not only am I going to die, but so is my family, just for being my family.
Well, just for being loyal.
Yep, exactly. Like this is the
You
payment I
know?
get for being the greatest general in Rome. Now I have to die because the transition to this Weasley fucking kid.
See, the thing is that this is a coup and he's on the right side, but everybody else don't realize
They don't know.
that they are honoring a fake. They're on the wrong side of, well, it's not out saying they're on the wrong side of history, but it's not the rest of the guys don't realize that they're on that they have been fooled here, that they are honoring a fake Caesar. Like he tells him later on, the real. I'm loyal to the real Caesar, right? Later on, he tells me he's the only one that knows, really. His intuition as a leader, as a general, he knows something's not right. And of course, he is the one then being perceived as the traitor,
Yep.
as the one who is not loyal to Rome, when he is the one true person who is being loyal to Rome right now, because he's doing the right thing. He's saying something's up here, it's not right. Marcus gave me orders to do this, and now he's dead. He says something about get the politicians down here. I want to have counsel with them. So he's not going to go to war with anybody. He wants to have a conversation with the politicians. And the politicians, being diplomatic, would probably investigate it because, well, I don't know what would happen if he did tell him I think he's killed him. I don't know what would happen, but I think as much as we dislike Commodus and he's a weasel and all the rest, and he's conniving and he's selfish, and he's still smart enough to realize that Maximus is a problem, and we have to sort this problem now and contain it now, maybe before it gets out, because he knows he's got the ear probably of the Senate, and also he's got the loyalty of the men. So it's that kind of classic thing of perceive him as a traitor, as a bad guy, as the disloyal one.
Kill him before he can ever say anything. Like no one will know what exactly Marcus said to him anyway. So like just kill him. It dies with him
before anything gets out.
Yep, exactly.
But as I say, we're as an audience member, we know that he's right. So at the minute he is the loyal one to Rome, and Commodus is the traitor.
Yep.
So he is, because he overthrew the legitimate government, or the legitimate power, the seized power, which has happened throughout history. But as I say, I love this scene here, John. This is the first, apart from the battle scene, this is the first scene I truly love, where Maximus is to be executed. They bring him out to the forest where he sees, where we see other bodies of skeletons. I never noticed this before until I watched it the other night on the TV. And I have to say, I watched the Blu-ray, and I thought the Blu-ray looked fantastic, to be honest with you. So I don't have the 4K, but you could see like the skeletons lying on the ground where they're bringing them out to be executed.
It's a beautiful looking film, and the 4K is beautiful. Great audio as well. Very, very good 4K. So the Blu-ray, it doesn't surprise me. It's just there's always been one on physical media that people want to have in their collections because it's a beautiful looking film, beautifully shot film, great audio. So I'm not surprised the Blu-ray looks great too.
Yeah, it looks so good. I've had that Blu-ray for a few years now, so I can only imagine what the 4K looks like. But he asks for a clean death, a soldier's death, to trick the guard into a more vulnerable position so he can make his break. I love that. Like, he knows they're going to put it through the back of his neck instead of cut his head off, and put it through the back of his neck, cut his spinal cord, and he knows that's what they're going to do. So when he goes lift the sword up, he bounces up and hits him with a head. Absolutely brilliant. And when he takes his sword and stabs it into him and turns around, and the guard can't get his sword out, and Maximus says to him, "The frost.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes the blade stick."
And then kills him. I love this, how he gets away. And these guys
right
thought it was going to be
face.
going to be so simple, these guys, and he takes them all out.
Yeah, I mean, he's some fighter, like, he's absolutely brilliant. He kills the two guards, and I love how he throws the other sword.
Oh, yeah. Gets him that way. It's awesome.
It's amazing, mate. And then when he turns and he shouts, "Praetorian!" And your man on the horse, he's having a drink, and he looks and he's like, shits himself. He's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, well, again, like he thought this was going to be a nice, simple, easy task, and like, nope, not for you.
The other three are dead, and he's like, "Oh shit." So he runs at him with a horse, and he kills him too. I love the run that he tries. He moves to the side, he takes him out, but he kind of slices his arm, so he's wounded. And then he raids as fast as he can to save his family. But in the meantime, we see the Roman soldiers emerge on Maximus's home. And I have to say, like, this is gut-wrenching, John, just seeing the horses run over his son, clatter into his son, He thinks it's his
He thought it was his dad.
thought it was his dad coming.
That's a horrible death. He thought his dad's coming home because it's the Roman army. You would think like his dad would be a part of it. That's what he thinks is his fault. So they are completely surprised. And the editing here is like we think like they're close together. Like he might get there in time, even though really they're pretty far apart. Like there was no shot.
Yeah, and you can tell as well when you're watching this because he's riding for ages and then he kind of like passes out, but you can see the length of Russell Crowe's hair, you know, so he's riding for God knows how long, don't know what he's living on, don't know what he's surviving on, but he's riding
desperate.
And Maximus eventually makes it home. However, it's too late. You can see the bodies of his servants lying, charred corpses on the burnt grass, and his wife and son's burnt bodies are hanging.
Oh, it's so terrible.
I remember watching this in this cinema, mate. Sorry, and just how shocking that was.
It's brutal. Like, yeah, just another brutal thing. The brutality of life, and a man who didn't deserve this to happen to him.
Yeah, because like a guy said to you earlier, I didn't know what this movie was about at all, and all of a sudden, like is this, like you say, this movie all of a sudden just gets turned on its head.
Mm-hmm. Like this guy, like we're thinking we're following this great hero's journey into like literally we've taken everything away from him, and it gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse, but that was the whole slogan as well. The whole slogan was, you know, and she says it, Priscilla says it, the soldier who became a slave and the slave who became more powerful than the emperor himself. You know, I always remember that after watching the movie, and then because the movie became a sensation, you were always seeing like, you know, TV spots on the TV, and that was what you always heard them saying about that. But yeah, I mean, but walking into it, just not knowing anything about it, just all of a sudden it's just turned on its head. Here's this guy who was kind of on top of the world, and now he's got nothing.
Yep, took everything away from him.
Just like that.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
But we cut to Maximus sleeping beside the buried bodies of his family, and he's lifted away by foreign men. Cut to black, but Maximus is gliding, and we see like weird imagery. We see the door to a stone property, the hand going through the weed again, the children laughing, a white horse, the sky, and a dog growling. Then you hear what we find out to be a guy called Juba. We hear him saying, "You'll meet them again, but not yet." And that's in a scene later on in the movie, which makes me think, is this a premonition or is he remembering back? I'm not sure. But Maximus wakes and there's a wound on his arm, lying wide open, and there's maggots in it. And that's when Juba says to him, "No, they will clean it. Wait and see." And then we see the procession traveling through the desert, and you hear Juba saying to him, "Don't die. They will feed you to the lions. The lions are worth more than we. Better now, clean, see." And he looks, and he's like, what was he putting in his arm?
I don't know what that is. I assume something to clean the wound and close it up. He's actually very lucky that he didn't die or lose freaking his arm at the very least. He's very fortunate in that sense.
It looks like bread he's putting in there, like breadcrumbs or something. I don't know what it is.
I assume it's something just medical of the time. That's always how I took it, that I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I didn't even look into it, so I didn't. Yeah. So then we cut the Sakabar, Roman province, and we see Proximo sitting at a table, played by Oliver Reed. Now, I had made a comment in our Jaws episode that imagine Robert Shaw playing this part. It would be great. But
Oliver Reed is great in this part, though. He was actually nominated for awards for this being his very last role. He literally dies during the end of production.
But yeah, but saying this, I love Oliver Reed in this movie. I think he's absolutely brilliant.
He is great.
As I said, Oliver Reed does an amazing job in this film, so I wouldn't change him. So I wouldn't. I will get a few things about what I would like to change later, maybe in the next episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is a lot like with his character that they had to do a lot of coverage for. The fact that he died, like it's rare that happens when an actor dies before they finish production. So you wonder how much like of the negatives of his character were intentional or unintentional.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, obviously, I was going to go into it more later when we get to those scenes, but that's on my mind. I don't want to forget things. So basically, yeah, Oliver Reed died while shooting this movie in Morocco. He got into a drinking contest in a pub and he keeled over. And they had to change the ending of the movie. I believe in the original version, he survives, but in this version, they kill him off. And now that so many years has went by, when I first watched this movie, I never really seen any issues, but now watching it all these years later, knowing that they had to change the ending and knowing that he died, and they used a body double and they CGI'd his face on the body, and they take dialogue from some of his earlier scenes and put it into those scenes. It's very choppy, and it's
you can hear the audio change.
Yeah, and it's not as expertly directed as the rest of the movie because it's like a mishmash.
Yeah, and it's almost like, yeah, it's a negative overall, but it's forgivable because like it's unimaginable. How do you predict something like that happening?
Yeah, you can understand why they done it rather than
Hmm.
just kind of like leave him totally out of it. And you go, whatever happened? What happened to that other character? Where did he go?
Yeah, no, you kind of can understand it, and like instead of recasting and reshooting, which they've done in other movies, which is even more admirable than what they had to do. It's just something like, you got to forgive it because the guy died.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing you could do. Well, you could say like, is he doing having drinking competitions? But yeah, but
I
anyway.
always think about that, like when someone dies, like they're in like an incredible amount of debt. It's like, well, what are you gonna do now? He's dead. Like he can't do. You're not bringing him back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Proximo says to a slave trader, "Yeah, I hear this. I think this guy was in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and didn't he played a similar character? The slave trader who owned Anakin and his mother. He was like the blue
Yes.
flying thing. Isn't this the same actor? Because it sounds like him.
And you might be correct. I'm not 100% sure.
What did they get him as a slave trader in this because of the Phantom Menace?
It's 1 year apart. It's very, very believable.
It's the only scene he's in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. They only bring him in for one quick scene. You think he has only one quick scene in the Phantom Menace too? Different studios. Oh, they got the Spielberg connection. I mean, George Lucas.
George Lucas as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible.
Sounds like him. So Proximo says, this is one of the funniest names in the whole movies. He says, Proximo says to them, those giraffes you sold me, they won't mate. They just walk around eating, not mating. You sold me queer giraffes. I want my money back. And he grabs him by the groin. And the slave trader says he has new stock. He says when he brings him to see the new stock, he says it's the slaves. It's Maximus and Jabba and the other men that he's picked up. He says some for fighting and some for dying. So Proximo picks out the slaves he wants, including Maximus, a Spaniard who he notes has the mark of the Legion, thinking he's a deserter. He tells them, I did not pay good money for you, for your company. I paid it so I could profit from your death. And as your mother was there at the beginning, so I shall be there at your end. And when you die, and die you shall, your transition shall be the sound of gladiators. I salute you.
Now, I don't know if you think about things like this when you're watching the movie or any movie, but as I get older, you start to think about your own mortality in life. But just how would you be able to handle hearing that you're essentially just been bought to die as a human being? Like, it's unimaginable to me. Like, because obviously we've grown up with the freedoms of life, but to know that like you've just been bought as a slave for nothing more but to fight to your death.
Yeah, to fight to die. Well, you're talking about putting yourself in people's shoes. I think this is totally alien to our way of life, so we can't really relate to it. But all I can think about is, it may have happened back in those days. But this is a movie. I would be thinking to myself, I'm fighting for survival. I'm fighting to live, and that's basically it.
It's just a crazy way that
literally.
That's what you lived for. Like that was the ending of your life, essentially. Like, your mother's there at the beginning and I'll be there at the end, and all you hear is clapping. It's like, that's it, huh? That was my life's journey. That's all I accounted for.
Yeah. But you see, we'll get to that scene where Proximo, in the second episode, Proximo says, I'm a businessman. So he just looks at this as like, this is business transaction. And the thing is that it's so kind of, John, it's so kind of like, it's so kind of second nature to him that, he's no qualms about doing it. He doesn't see these people as people or these slaves as people. He sees them as a commodity. He's buying them, he's trading them. I'll pay you 1,000 for this, and he's like, only 1,000. Well, I'll pay you 2,000. I'll take 4,000 for the beasts, and it's a transaction to him. They're not seen as human, and
it's all the time.
It's a harsh reality of the times. It's not that Proximo was heartless or evil or a monster. It's just of the time. Unfortunately,
that's why you don't get. Yeah, that's why you don't get offended or like outright. Like in another movie, like for example, in the movie 12 Years a Slave, there's another slave buying scene with Paul Giamatti where watching that scene, he's like testing them up, slapping them around to test their strength and stuff. And it's like that disgusts you as the viewer. But in this one, you're not really disgusted with Oliver Reed's character because, it's just this is how it was. Like he's not really doing anything that would be disgusting, because it is disgusting to us, but it's of the time unfortunate. It's just an unfortunate side effect, because he's also a victim of this himself.
Yeah, that's right. As we find out later in one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, we find out that he was a slave once.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just doing
Who's won his
possibly
freedom.
what he was taught, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that's like kind of how it, like, the thing a great director can do in a great script, even though the script has flaws, is make us sympathize with somebody who is kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like he's still
Yeah.
buying human beings. Like us as humans looking at it, we're like, well, that's pretty gross, but it makes us sympathize with that because of the context.
Yeah. And the funny you should say that, because when I read that this character was supposed to survive, and we'll get there, but when you see how basically in the scenes where Oliver Reed was alive, how he does not, as I mentioned there, he does not go along with Maximus's plan, because he says, I'm a businessman. He's not a politician. He's had no loyalty to Rome. He's no loyalty to anybody really but himself. And in that scene where he dies, that's a body double, and he hands the keys and says, there you go. You've won your freedom, and hands him the keys. And he says to him, Proximo, you're in danger of becoming a good man. And he goes, now that's all CGI. That's not Oliver Reed. There's a scene before that where when Maximus comes in with the plot, and I think part of the reason why Proximo doesn't go for the plot is because he doesn't see how they can succeed. Firstly, but then he says about I'm a businessman. But later, when the plan starts coming together, he lets I think it's Lucilla in to see Maximus, and he says to him, "You've got some persuasive friends," and she says the plan's going ahead tonight. So they lean on him. The Senate leans on him. The good people in the Senate lean on him to do the right thing. So it would be interesting to have seen his actual arc if Oliver Reed didn't die.
Yeah, it's very it does feel like it comes to an abrupt end, like, and we know why, but it would have been cool to actually see where that character was going, because he is very interesting, and it is one of my favorite scenes too, where he explains about like what happened to him. So it's a shame.
Yeah, I think maybe I should read the original script. I think things might have been different with that character if he hadn't have passed away. But the next scene we see training at Proximo's camp as each slave goes up for a test of skill. Jabba goes up against a big man, Hagen, and Proximo is impressed. Now I like Hagen. I think he's brilliant.
He's great.
Big man mountain of a guy.
Yeah. He's great character.
And next is the Spaniard, Maximus. But he won't fight.
Mm-mm.
And I love the way he shouts at Maximus, and he just looks, and then the music starts, and Proximo just stares at him, and he throws the wooden sword down. Hagen, first of all, he hits him in the abdomen, and I don't know if he goes down, but he kind of bends over, but he stands up straight again, and this time he hits him on his wounded arm, and that's where he falls down. But that's enough for the moment. His time will come. But you see him kind of looking at him, thinking, what is this? What's with this guy?
Yeah, why isn't he fighting? He doesn't realize yet, like, what this man is, and they don't realize either what they have. Like, he could easily kill all of them, but he's like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not giving in to what you bought me for. I'm not, conforming to the system essentially that you've put forth to me.
Do you think that's what he's doing, or is he just giving up on life?
Well, I never actually took it that way, but that's a good way to look at it. I always took it as like literally he could just end them all, and he's not gonna, conform to being a slave. Like, just because you bought me, I'm not doing what you want.
He's above this.
He's above it. Exactly. That's how I always took it. Like, I didn't think of it anything more than like, yeah, like I would have given up, if I'm being honest, like 100%. I would just let them kill me, because like you killed my family, you took away everything I fought for was for nothing. I just found out my whole life was literally for nothing. I wouldn't fight for nothing anymore. Personally, I'd be like, I was a lie.
Yeah, because in the next scene, he's cutting the tattoo out of his arm, and he's questioned by Jabba. I wrote Jabba. I thought his name was Jabba. Maybe it's Jabba. I think it is Jabba, actually. I wrote Jabba. Jabba, why he doesn't fight. And then he asks him, is that the mark of your gods? And I love how, like, Russell Crowe kind of laughs and nods. And Jabba says, will that not anger them? And he laughs. He's kind of half crying, half laughing. Now, there's a couple of ways to interpret this. Is this this is obviously an act of defiance, right? But is it also so he can't be identified?
Yeah, it's a couple of different things. It's also him finally giving up on them like they gave up on him. Like, I'm not going to be tattooed by my oppressors at this point anymore. Like, and it's also like so that nobody recognizes the fact like who he is, because if they think he's a deserter, then they're gonna think they're gonna want to kill him anyway. It's also they make sure to note that nobody in Rome has seen the Roman army. Like, they know of him, like they've heard of him, but they actually don't know what he looks like, which is crazy to me. Like, the great just general from Rome, like the people of Rome don't actually know what he looks like.
Yeah, you're
So
right. Yeah, they've probably heard of it. They don't know what he looks like. And yeah, no, I like that scene with them. You know, it's just showing you. Yeah, it's just showing you that Maximus has lost faith in everything that he used to believe in. But it's also multi-layered there, John. You're right, because it's
well, you could also look
you
at
can
it like
see who he is.
the fact that he said that aren't those your gods, and the way he laughed, it's like essentially they are. And it's like to
Yep.
all of us, like, who are our gods? Our gods are the ones who really control us, right? And like that's who he was. They controlled him his entire life, and then they turned their back on him. So he's going to turn his back on them. It's anything like any kind of person who loses their faith in any kind of religion. You do the same thing. Like, like I've given my faith to them, and they've shown me that I wasn't worthy, or that I shouldn't have had my faith in them to begin with. So I'm gonna get rid of the tattoo.
And you serve your God, and
Mhm.
he was serving them.
Mhm.
And yeah, so he's like you say, he's lost faith in them. And you see more of that later on when the Scylla comes more into it as well. So next, the slaves are entering an arena to fight, and Hagen taunts. Well, I wrote this that he taunts him. It's like he's taunting him, but I don't know if he is or not. Maybe he's not taunting him, but he says that the gods favor you. Red is the gods' color. You will need their help today.
Yep. Yeah. So he thinks.
Because I always looked at this as if he was taunting him because he thinks Maximus is a card, because Maximus won't fight. So he's
Yeah.
like taunting him. He's saying, "Oh, the gods favor you today." Yeah, in other words, you're gonna die. You're dead. You're the one that's going. Red is their color. You will need their help.
Yeah, this movie snuck in one of my favorite movie tropes is people who don't realize who somebody is. Like, like just like in the whole John Wick series franchise, like, how people don't know who John Wick is until he starts killing. It's like, oh no, he's the best. They don't realize that this guy can kill everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great reveal in this movie when he does start fighting and how they
good
marvel
he
at
is.
him. Yeah, and then there's a scene in the next episode we're gonna do when they do find out who he is, and how Hagen is kind of marveling at him. You fought in Germania, and he's there, and he's so humble. He's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's not being Bill, as we would say over here, Billy Big Balls.
Yeah, he's not being a fucking egomaniac or anything like that. He's not trying to like be like, yeah, no, I not only did I fight, I led them. Like, he could easily do that, but he's not. He's a humble man. He's a good man.
He says that, did you fight in Germania? Well, as Marcus said, he won the war, didn't just fight.
Yeah,
Won it.
he's the reason why, exactly. The king recognized him as the Caesar recognized him as the reason why they won.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. That's a great scene as well. But underneath the arena, you can hear the crowd chanting, "Kill, kill, kill!" And Proximo tells them, some of you are thinking you won't fight. In other words, I think he's alluding to Maximus there. And I love how he says, "Thrust this into another man's flesh," and they will applaud and love you for that. You may begin to love them for that. And then he slams the blade into the table and he says, ultimately, we're all dead men. Sadly, we cannot choose how, but we can decide how we meet that, and in order that we can be remembered as men. There's some great speeches in this movie.
Oh, great monologues. Great monologues. That's why it can get over the hump of like some screenplay issues, which are crazy that they had that, because there are great monologues written in. Of course, great performers.
Yeah. Definitely. Maximus and the slaves are standing in the tunnel getting ready to enter the arena. One slave in front of him is peeing on the ground. He takes a step back. Now, I thought of Saving Private Ryan when I seen that again the other night.
It's the same thing. Exactly the same thing. The fear.
Yeah, he's terrified. He's not going to survive.
Oh, and most of these guys aren't going to survive. Just like in World War II when they were going to their death. That's why they always talk about the smells, people puking, shitting, and pissing, because they're going to their death, and most of them did.
They did, and the thing is, you can see how calm and collected Maximus is.
He doesn't care if he lives or dies anyway.
That's true. That is very true. He's just like cool and calm, just takes a step back. But he's used to going into battle, John, as well. Even though he's got an army behind him, but he's used to going into battle.
He's fought worse than this.
He has, and he probably doesn't know at this stage what he's going into. But It's like that thing we talked about being confident. I think he's confident in his abilities. So we have our first gladiator battle. We see them fighting. One particular part of this actual battle is when I love when you see Hagen giving somebody like 3 punches to their solar plexus and lifts him onto the fucking the horns, the spikes, the horns on the side of the wall.
I know, like making a display out of him.
He's brilliant. And then you see Maximus working in a team with Jabba to take out some of the guys.
Yeah, he basically leads him and like allows him to like stand behind him, showing the great leader that he is, which is also foreshadowing of like some of the battles in the future, some of the other gladiator fights, explaining that if we're gonna win as a team because he's a leader of men.
Yeah, but that I was thinking about that as well when I was watching it again. Is that actually reflects on you see though? Well, we all know that the leadership qualities, but the orders that he's given the gladiators in the big fight later, which is an inversion of the actual battle, I think, where he's now on the barbarians. But those kind of orders he's given the gladiators is what he was given to his men at the start of the movie. Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so they win their first gladiator battle. I'm sure there's some gladiators that were gladiators loosely that were killed, but they were the ones that survived.
Now, is this the first one where he does the thing with the swords and splits the guy's head in two?
No,
No, that's the second. That's the second one, then, right?
That's the second one.
Okay.
This one is kind of like it's a good fight, it's a good battle, but like you say, there's no real togetherness. There seem like individuals. And they're being told some of you are going to go to your by death, and some of you might survive, but ultimately you're going to die at some stage. But you see some of them die, but I think it's him and Hagen and Juba are the only ones that survive from that group, I think. So, but you kind of see this is the first time you see how good a fighter Hagen is. I get the feeling that Hagen has been in gladiator battles before and he survived, and that's why he was the one doing the training with the new slaves. But you see that kind of like that camaraderie that Jubba's building up with Maximus, because they are chained together, but then they start working together.
Yeah,
to survive.
Yeah, they learn to trust. Well, he really learns to trust Maximus.
Yeah, well, he's been a friend of Maximus from the start.
Yeah, he's always just genuinely liked him, and that. But I think right now, because we hadn't seen him fight, like, and he automatically or lead, like the fact that he basically just takes the lead and is like, "Oh shit, okay, I'll follow you."
Yeah. Yeah. So they win that battle anyway, and we cut to the next scene. Commodus and the Scylla are raving back to Rome, and the crowd are telling him, "Go away, you'll never rule us."
Yeah, they're not happy to see him because they even recognized back then like he's the Nepo baby.
Yeah. And they probably don't want an emperor to rule over them anymore. The times are changing.
They want a senate to be like in charge.
They want politics. And Gracchus says he enters Rome like a conquering hero. But what has he conquered? And Falco says, give him time. He's young. I think he could do very well. And Gracchus says, for Rome or for you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's always, unfortunately, what unravels society in general, everywhere you go, is greed. Because this person's not thinking about Rome. He's just thinking about himself. So he's trying to justify, he'll be good over time. Yeah, for you.
Yeah. And then we see Lucilla's son run there. And we go into a scene where Commodus is discussing Rome with the politicians and the Senate. And you see he's like spinning his sword like a child, who's bored. Yeah.
This is where it's like you're right about your comparison to Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
But he's wearing all the outfit and all as if he's come back like he says, like a conquering king, which he's done absolutely nothing of the sort.
No, we know that he killed his father to even get there.
He says, they start having this debate around the people and Rome and the Senate. And he says, the people are my children and I am their father. I shall show them they are loved. I shall hold them to my bosom and embrace them.
Yeah.
My note here is sickening.
Yeah, well, and I think doesn't she jump in there and say, right, like at this moment, say, "Oh, my brother is tired."
Yeah, well, they mock him, and Gracchus says, "Have you ever embraced someone dying of plague, sire?" And she then says, "Oh, my brother is tired," and she kind of takes him away. But in the next scene, Commodus is, he's whining, and he suggests that it should be only him and Lucilla. She tells him to not even think it. There's always been a Senate. So she's trying to be a voice of reason here.
Yeah, stop this guy from doing what he clearly wants to do. Because she's been trying to just diffuse the situation since they got back.
Yes, well, we later find out, and I hate to get away ahead of ourselves, but this all kind of ties in, John. We later find out that her motivation for not going against him And her motivation for trying to be the voice of reason and trying to alleviate situations and extinguish situations is because I think she's afraid that if the Emperor is all powerful, that her son, she says it herself, is next in line for the throne and that he may kill him.
Yeah, I'd be worried. I mean, that's the other thing. As a parent, like you got to be worried as well, like about your son, who seems like a good kid.
But we will get to those scenes. But I think that's
her driving factor.
That's what we will find out. But he tells her Rome has changed. It takes an emperor to rule an empire. And then he acknowledges his father's war against the barbarians achieved nothing, but Lucilla reminds him they care about the greatness of Rome. It's an idea. Greatness is a vision. So that's what I'm saying about Commodus. For all his faults and all his flaws and all his kind of megalomania, he's smart in a way that he recognizes these things and he acknowledges these things. He's acknowledging exactly what his father was telling Maximus.
Yeah, he's aware. He's somewhat self-aware. It's just that, unfortunately, his need for power and his greed is what drives him at the end of the day.
And Commodus says, exactly, a vision. I will give the people a vision, and they will love me for it. They will soon forget about the tedious sermonizing of a few dry old men. I will give them the greatest vision of their lives.
Said like any great fascist.
Yeah, and you see Commodus place 2 figurines and a model of the Colosseum, and that's when we cut to the overhead shot of the camera going over like a CGI Colosseum, which is what you said at the start of the podcast, John.
Yeah, beautiful, by the way. Like, this is like, again, like seeing this on the big screen like you did, I'm sure it was incredible. But like, even like I watched it yesterday, this is where CGI is at its best, is doing something like this, where it's not a complete artificial world. It's just like to assist them in showing us this Coliseum, which even like I remember saying to Faith last night while we're watching, like, imagine like, because like they make sure to point out that it's man built, and it's like, really, how did they do that in that time? I'm sure many people died in building that, but it is incredible.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's why it's such a big marvel as well. It's like, you know, the men who built the Egyptians who built the pyramids as well, you know, they're just marvels, and this is one of them. You know, I actually visited a Colosseum once, not the Colosseum. I did visit one in Spain a few years ago. Yeah,
I think Faith actually visited the Roman Colosseum.
Oh, did you? Because you said before Faith was in Italy, was in Rome at one stage.
Yeah, she likes to travel, Faith. So she's been to Italy, I think, twice, and I think she's been to Spain too. I don't know where the hell she goes. I usually just stay here.
So you stay at home.
She's the world traveler.
It's kind of like Yeah, does she bring a figurine of you? And
I assume so, and she kisses it every night before she goes to bed.
Yeah, she's probably buried it at the Colosseum and never brought it back.
I assume she has.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Oh, it's very good. I mean, I've never been to Italy. I've never been to Rome. I've been to Spain, but
how was it though? Was it beautiful?
Spain?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful country. Yeah. I've stayed at a proper Spanish village, so it wasn't too touristy.
But that's nice though to get that's what I would want to do too, honestly, to get the complete like vision of it. Like, you know, not going to like a hotel. I can go to a hotel here.
yeah, exactly. Well, we stayed in apartments, and there's like a proper wee Spanish village. And then one of the days we went out and we went to done a wee tour around. We went to this like old ancient like Colosseum. There's a video of me, and it's like that. It's like it's got the big it's got the middle part, and then it has like the stands where people stood and watched what was going on. You could travel up them, you know what I mean, and walk around. But the only aim was it was the south of Spain. It's very hot. Most of the days it was like 40-degree heat, which is what I don't know what that would be over in the States.
Very hot.
Yeah.
I don't have the conversion in my head, just knowing that it's probably above 90.
Yeah. So it was like that, like every day. I was there in, when did I go? August time? End of July, August.
So the hottest time of the year, because we just hit over 100 degrees Fahrenheit here yesterday.
Yeah, it's wild. And the apartment I was staying in didn't have any air conditioning.
I'd leave.
Yeah, it was pretty hot. But I loved it. I love the heat, you know what I mean? But it does get to the stage where I was there for 10 days where it's like, you know, any longer than that, you know, it'd be.
Yeah. Well, let's just put it like this. If I was alive in these times when Marcus Aurelius and Maximus are, I would have died day one because the sun tries to assassinate me if I'm out in more than an hour.
Well, I'm very fair-skinned. You know, I would burn very easy, but I do love the heat. And I just, like, even the summer we're getting here, you know, a couple of days here and there, you're getting 24, 25 degrees. Maybe we got a few heat waves there. It was getting a wee bit higher. It was getting 26, 27, 28. And Like if I go out to do the garden, spend an hour and a half out there, like I wouldn't burn, but if we were to get that solid, John, for 2 or 3 months, I think I would get a nice color. You know what I mean? But it's just there's no point because it could be like that for a few days, and then the next day it's like overcast, and then or for the next few weeks, and then it rains, and then you lose the color. So there's no point.
I get that. I can't say I've ever experienced the tan, so I've experienced the burn.
As far as the burn, would you need to put your factor 50 on?
Oh, I got to go to 100 at
100?
least, and every hour if I want to not get burnt.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a fun experience for me outside in hot summer days.
Yeah, it's not good for you, mate. It might suit you then if you move to somewhere like this part of the world, but not London, not southern England.
I want to move to where the thing is set.
The Antarctica?
Antarctica.
Yeah. Well, mate, I believe that was the Universal Studios backlot.
Well, I want to go there then too.
It'd be very hot over there in California.
Yeah, I'll just go on the air-conditioned set.
Yeah, that's true.
They can build me a fake world.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be great. So,
right.
What are we up to?
We're up to but so we cut to the next scene and we see as a Gaius and Gracchus. Sorry, Gaius gives Gracchus a flyer advertising Commodus's plan to win over Rome. And Gaius, I don't know. See this scene is like it's always stuck out to me. I really like it. So Gaius is outraged. He's like, games, 150 days of games. And Gracchus says, he's cleverer than I thought. And Gaius says, clever? The whole of Rome would be laughing at him if they weren't in fear of his Praetorian. And Gracchus says, fear and wonder, a powerful combination. And Gaius says, will the people really be seduced by that? And this speech, I love how he gives it. And I just love, he's so serious and it's just so good. And the camera just slowly zooms into his face. And Gracchus says, I think he knows what Rome is. Rome is the mob. He will conjure magic for them and they will be distracted. He will take away their freedom and still they will roar. And this is where it starts to zoom. And he says, the beating heart of Rome is not the marble flora of the Senate. It is the sand of the Colosseum. He will give them death and they will love him for it. And he's like eating grapes while he's saying this.
Yeah,
great speech.
It's great because it's also a reflection of our modern society, which in 2000, it was a changing. Now it's kind of like that's exactly what we've come. Like they take our freedoms away while distracting us with other things. And unfortunately, humans get distracted by things like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, that all boils down to modern life. You know, because we're all distracted by entertainment.
That's always what's more important to us. And if our politics start to become entertainment, like they kind of have, it's a danger.
Oh yeah. And look, I don't know what it's like in the States, but over here, but especially say in England, but also over here as well, like we love our soccer, we love our football, so we do. And when there's no football on the television, like during the summer, unless there's like an international tournament on, it's like people just can't wait for the soccer to start again. And we're 3 weeks away from the new season starting, and people are so excited, and we're all talking about how the season's going to go, what transfers our club's going to bring in, and blah blah blah. And it's all a distraction, and that's what it is. It's a distraction to real life events of what's really going on in the world. So people have something to cheer for at the weekends. It's like alcohol and movies and all that's all a distraction.
Yeah, because unfortunately, like human beings, we need to feel more calm, and we need things like that than have the politics, the disgusting of that be front and center. So you distract us, and that's exactly what Commodus is doing, and exactly what he says. He knows what he's doing, and he's more clever than we thought. Like they didn't think that he'd be smart enough to do something like this. But 150 days of games, that'll distract him.
Yeah, and as like I said about soccer, it's what people live for. People live weekend to weekend for that. They don't. And don't get me wrong, it's not a bad way to be. They don't care about politics and they don't care about what's going on in the world. If they're, they're working hard and then at the weekend, I look forward to watching the football match. They're doing nobody any harm. But it is escapism, and there's this train of thought that's where modern sport is derivative from or derives from blood sports back in the day.
It all comes from things like this. This was the original sport, like is doing things like this. It's just they didn't know better, so people were dying.
Yeah, it was a fight to the death, and
they were forced into it. It's like now people volunteer. Like the biggest sport here in the U.S. is the NFL, American football, and people literally have their lives ruined from it, but we're entertained by it.
Yeah, yeah. Ruined in what way?
Well, from the head trauma, they get
Oh, yeah.
CBD, all that stuff that happens after their lives, and to the point that there's many retired football players who suffer many different brain diseases to the point that they've died, or committed suicide, and that's why helmets have gotten safer and everything is because of things like that. But that's essentially what do? We go to a stadium to watch these guys beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, well, I know what you're saying because there's been studies being carried out in soccer where the football of the years has actually got later and later. But back in the day, the ball was a lot heavier, and there's like old footballers in their older age have suffered dementia, and they've put it down to when they used to head the ball while playing football. You're playing a 90-minute match once a week, but all the training and everything you're doing during the week, heading the ball and stuff like that, and that's what they've attributed to. So I think they're looking to bring laws in, for example, laws like that children aren't allowed to head the ball in training. And I've even noticed it, to be honest, John, recently with soccer in the last load of years, where footballers are not heading the ball as much as they used to. And I think it's probably being taught to them in training to try and play the game without heading the ball. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It ties in as well. That's same with that over here with rugby. I mean, rugby's a big sport here as well, and I've heard them talking about as well that children are kind of being pushed into playing rugby from an early age, and it's causing them to have problems when they get the adulthood. And the thing is that not every one of these children are becoming professionals. They're not earning money from doing this, and they're playing rugby, and then they're giving it up in later life, but they're coming away with head problems and problems with their bodies and their joints and things like that.
Yeah. So that's the exact same thing as the NFL here. It's literally the exact same thing that they said. And kids starting playing football, American football at a young age, causing the head trauma that will eventually hurt them in later life. And, here it's the Coliseum and they just die. But it's for the same thing. It's for the entertainment of others.
Yeah, it's the entertainment, and as I say, it's just a spectacle for people to go, as you say, and cheer on one side or the other. And one of the other big ones is boxing, where you literally.
Oh yeah, how do we forget boxing? That's literally.
But you literally are trying to hurt the other person, and of course, the aim of the game is to hit and not be hit. But as as Tyson Fury says, you can't go swimming and not get wet, and or you can't go out in the rain and can't get wet. You're going to get hit by a few droplets. And but the aim of the game is to hurt your opponent or to hit your opponent and not be hit. And we all know that can cause problems for fighters. But I subscribe to the fact that people are adults and they should be allowed to do what they wish. They know the rules, they know the risks when they get into the ring. And if they don't want to do it, then don't do it.
Exactly. That's why I hate the complaints from professional athletes. It's not like you didn't know, and you did it for the money. Don't pretend later in life you didn't. Come on, don't play stupid now. But that's again human nature.
Well, one of the best lines is in Rocky 5, where a reporter asked Rocky something along the lines of about doctors have advised about fighting, blah blah blah. I can't remember exactly what the reporter says, but Rocky retorts with, "Yeah, I agree. Doctors should never fight."
Yeah. Classic Rocky 5.
Classic Rocky 5, yeah. So anyway, we'll move on here to the second Gladiator fight. And this is the one here, John, where Maximus is a wee bit more confident. He knows what he's going into. And he walks through the other slaves as they salute him, Spaniard. And Maximus walks out into the arena and he disposes of all 5 fighters with ease. So he does. So I've compared this to Mike Tyson knocking his opponents out in say 30 seconds or 1 minute or 90 seconds. And Proximo watches and realizes that this guy is good. There's something special about him. But he sees he's fighting with something, but doesn't know, fighting for something or fighting with some venom, but he doesn't know what.
Yeah, he knows there's something behind those eyes that we don't. He doesn't know yet, but we know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. He knows there's something up, and that's the one where I think he cuts the guy's hair, uses the 2 swords and cuts the guy.
Yeah, but great visual.
Yeah, but he throws the sword up at the table. And this is where he says the classic line.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Yeah, basically calling out what we just said. That's all. You're here to watch me do this. This is what you're all here for, to watch me kill other people. And he's like, all right, did you see it? And he did. He put on a show.
Yep, this morbid shit. Whereas like he's looking at it from the point of view of as he says in the next scene, I'm required to kill, so I do it. And it's kind of like as a soldier, you're required to kill,
Yeah,
but he doesn't want to kill.
no, and he's there to do it, and he's good at it, but he doesn't want to be good at it. But that's what he's good at, and you look at what happened. This is what you guys came for me to do, right? And I did it.
Yeah, and that's why he's calling them out over, But the next thing is he throws the sword down and he spits, and the crowd starts chanting his name, and he kind of looks around in disbelief, like they love this, they like this, they like seeing me do this.
It's hard to believe, right?
And I suppose maybe it's like a footballer who scores a goal and everybody starts cheering. They say that soccer players that score a goal, they ask them what it feels like, says in front of 50,000 people. Like they say in the movie about the Coliseums, 50,000 people. There's stadiums that has 100,000 people, but they say scoring a goal in soccer in front of, say, even if it is 100,000 people, but let's say it's 50,000, and say 4 to 5,000 is the away fans. So you're scoring in front of 45,000 people, your fans. So see when the roar goes up in the stadium, they say the feeling is better than like 10 orgasms.
I imagine it's euphoric. People chase that. It's like being a stand-up comedian. Like that's their ultimate high.
Yeah. So that's what they say it's like. So there we go. Hopefully my battery doesn't go here. Oh, a second, because we're nearly on. How many have I got left here? We're nearly done. We're going to the last scene, John.
All right, perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. I want to see how much battery I got left here. I don't want to go off. It says 29%, 1 hour, 49 minutes, but it probably won't last that long. But anyway, we'll do this last scene. Yep. So we cut to Maximus in Proximus' quarters. And I love this scene. This is the scene I said earlier there. I think this might be my favorite scene.
Yeah, I love this scene too. Might be mine too. Great monologue.
Great monologue. Great acting. I love how the music starts to come in here. You really feel the emotion. See when that music and all starts and the way Oliver Reed delivers his lines, I get goosebumps.
Yeah, it's great. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm with you on this.
Yeah, Proximo asks, what do you want? Girl? Boy? And he says, you're good, Spaniard, but you're not. I don't know where he turns and he goes, but you're not that good. And Maximus, this is where Maximus says, I am required to kill, so I kill. Is that not enough? And he tells Maximus that the young emperor has organized a series of spectacles to commemorate his father, Marcus Aurelius. And he finds it amusing since it was he that closed them down and they will be going back to the Colosseum. Now, this is the bit here. See when the music starts and it's like he's reliving his glory years as a gladiator. It's the most alive you kind of see his character come in the scene. And he's like, oh, you should see the Colosseum, Spaniard. 50,000 Romans watching every movement of your sword, willing you to make that killer blow. The silence before you strike, and the noise afterwards, it rises like a storm, as if you were the thunder god himself. I like how he's like shaking, he's reliving it, he's feeling it.
Yeah, it's literally like being the coach of a new up and coming athlete, like reliving what he went through and how it was the best time of his life. And he's like passing it down, like, wait till you experience this. Like, this was like, basically like Mickey to Rocky, and Rocky essentially is this kind of thing. Like, you got it. And you're going to experience it like I did. Like, wait till you feel 50,000 people like watching your every moment, your every movement. It's amazing.
Do you think it's how Rocky felt when he was mentoring Tommy Gunn? Yeah, Tommy!
Probably.
Yeah. And yeah, but that's what I said about, like, as I said, because this is like, you were talking to the end of your life. I didn't even think of saying Gladiator. Is that not a sports movie? Because if this is the roots, it kind of is. Yeah, it's a blood sport. Yeah, like a blood sport movie. Yeah. And if this is where the roots and the seeds of like combat sports comes from, right? It got me thinking about, as I said about, I follow soccer, I follow football, and like the team I support is renowned for its atmosphere. It's like one of the best soccer stadiums in world football. And they're going to move to a new stadium, and they're afraid that they're going to lose that atmosphere because, it's not that it's a small pitch. It's just that there's so many people kind of like in the stadium. It's world famous. And like they're playing in the Champions League this season. And like some of the Champions League nights, it's like the atmosphere is unreal. And I can just imagine, like when I'm sitting watching them on TV, when they're playing a match like that, John, and they score a goal, and I cheer, I get goosebumps just watching it. So I could only imagine what it's like being in the stadium or being a player on the pitch and winning a game like that, a big game like that, or scoring a goal like that. So I think that's what Proximo is experiencing there.
Yeah, he's
He's
reliving
reliving
that.
that in his mind.
Yeah, it's great. It's an amazing, amazing scene.
So he says to him, Maximus says to him, "You were a gladiator?" And he says, "Yes, yes, I was." I like how he like shakes and like, turns away. But I love this. He says to him, Proximo tells Maximus he was a gladiator who won his freedom. And Marcus Aurelius presented him with a Brutus, a wooden sword, a symbol for your freedom. And he says, he touched me on the shoulder once and I was free. And I love how Maximus laughs and says, "You do, Marcus Aurelius." And it's almost like, it's weird. It's a weird paradox.
Yeah, like you knew like, and he was like a hero to you, and you don't even realize like what I did for him.
Yeah, you don't realize that I was the guy.
Yeah, I was his guy. Yeah.
And Proximo, I love it. Proximo, he's a bit he feels shot down here. He's a bit embarrassed. He's like, "I did not say that I knew him. I said he touched me on the shoulder."
Yeah, I know. He's like a little like he almost felt like he was being mocked.
I love this advice that he gives Maximus here, because Maximus in the last scene walked through 5 guys and it was over like that. But he says to him, "I wasn't the best because I killed quickly. I was the best because the crowd loved me," which is true in all sports. When you think about it, you could be the best in the world, mate. But if the crowd doesn't love you, then it probably affects you in a bad way. I mean, I remember Mike Tyson talking about Floyd Mayweather and saying, I think Floyd Mayweather had said some disparaging things about Muhammad Ali, and Floyd Mayweather says, "Do you know why?" Mike Tyson says Mike Tyson was angry about this, and Mike Tyson says, "Do you know why Floyd Mayweather isn't great?" He says, "Because he can't walk down the street without his bodyguards. You're only great when you can walk down the street without your bodyguards." And Muhammad Ali was the type of guy who walk down the street and be kind of flocked by people who just wanted to shake his hand and meet him and get him to sign an autograph or maybe get a photograph of him.
Yeah, everybody loved him. Not everybody likes Floyd Mayweather.
Yep, exactly. And now I can relate to what Proximo's saying there. You could be the best at your sport, but if you're not loved by the crowd and they're not cheering you on, what's it worth?
What's the point?
What's the point? Yeah. And that's when he says, "Win the crowd and win your freedom." And how many times have you heard that? Maybe it's the same we say here when we're watching football. It's like silence the crowd.
Yeah, take the crowd out of it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. Yeah, it's in all sports.
We always talk about when Newcastle United play at St. James's Park, we always talk about the 12th man. The 12th man's the crowd. And we always have to get the 12th man on side.
It's so funny you said that. Have you ever heard of the Seattle Seahawks?
No.
So that's an NFL team. They literally have it's called the 12th man. It's like because there's 11 guys on each side of the field. So 11 on 11 is the NFL, National American football, which is funny how it relates to that. So, but they call the crowd the 12th man. And every game they have somebody ring the bell at the stadium being the 12th man wearing the 12 jersey. So it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, though that's a big saying, not just for Newcastle, for any team. It's like, or we can use it in like a disparaging type of way. For example, if the referee's bad and is given the opposition all the decisions, then we call the ref their 12th man. So we do. So yeah, that must be just a common thing in sport, mate.
Yeah. Got to take the crowd out of it. They're important though if you're home.
And of course, Maximus then formulates a plot in his head. He stands up straight like the soldier he is, and he says, "I will win the crowd. I will give them something they have never seen before." In other words, he's, formulating something here. He's got a purpose now. And Proximo says, "So, Spaniard, we shall go to Rome together and have bloody adventures, and the great whore will suckle us until we are fat and happy and can suckle no more. And then, when enough men have died, perhaps you can have your freedom." And I love how he's like, "Here, use this." And he throws him his old body armor.
Yeah, he looks at it too, which is he's like, "Oh, pretty nice."
And Maximus leaves. Proximo looks out the window, raising his arms to the light outside coming through. You hear that wonderful score.
Beautiful end to the scene.
Yep. And that is us for part 1.
Yep. So that's it, guys, for part 1. I mean, this is if you can see how long we went on one part, had to be 2 parts, and this is a classic film that deserves that. So make sure you guys catch up in time for part 2 and watch the second part so you can join us next time. So, you have anything you want to say before we get out of here, David?
Nope. That's I don't have any much to say. Just win the crowd.
Win the crowd. So make sure you guys win the crowd by next Friday. All right, guys, and we'll be seeing you around.